All right, guys, welcome to the first ever podcast on what is my show called again? Shack in Progress.
There you go.
We have Jeremy. I met Jeremy at a wholesale real estate or a real estate conference. Jeremy, you remember you sat down next to me.
Yep.
I was sitting in the back and no one was really talking to me, but Jeremy, this is a perfect picture of who Jeremy is. He'll sit next to you and start conversating like a human being. And that's exactly what happened. Thank you for coming. It's a pleasure to have you.
Honored to be here, bro.
Thank you, man. Have you been on podcast before?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah,
Well, this is my first.
Yeah, I've had a couple like of my own in the past.
Okay,
I don't
all
have
right.
one right now. And I've probably been on a couple dozen over the last like 10, 15 years.
Holy
Yeah.
moly. Okay, you're more of a pro than I am at this point. So take it easy as I interview.
For sure.
Okay, awesome.
No,
Thank
you're good.
you.
You got a good setup, all the tech. So
Yeah.
come for it.
Just before we started this, we were like moving our iPhones. He has his iPhone recording. We're doing what we can to make this look legitimate. And obviously over time, it'll get better.
100%.
Sweet. Well, Jeremy, you are here. You want to know why I chose you as my first one?
I'm curious to know. Like I'm honored, number one. And like I said, I want to help in any way that I can, like
Right.
whether it's the tech or talking through it or being a guest or any of that. But I'd be curious to know myself.
Yeah. I sat down. I was like, okay, I want to do a podcast. Who's going to be the first person to bring on? And you came to mind because remember that drive we took to Kingman, 3 hours, and we were just kicking it back and forth, and it was such a good, easy conversation. Not only that, we have like same background in Apple, same like beliefs in some of business and life. So I'm wanting to bring some of that back on a podcast naturally, but I figured your life story, like where you came from, similarities to it, and just an overall interesting human being. So that's
Appreciate
why I
that.
brought you. You're the first one, honestly, first one to come to mind.
Honored, bro.
Okay, awesome. Well, tell me, okay, this is about entrepreneurship, creators and the up and coming, right? We're all trying to get to where we want to be, right? If you're already where you're at, like it's a different story. And I think we can all agree, if you're listening to this, we're all trying to get somewhere, right? And I'm learning that the most important thing to do is enjoy the journey to the place. So my focus today is to get in that journey, like get in your head, where are you at in your journey, right? And then where do you want to go and how to get there. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Jeremy, and how, up to this point, what you're doing now.
Yeah, so some background that might be important to help people get context of who I am and context and kind of what we'll end up sharing throughout this. Born in LA. So I was born in California.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, born in California. Lived there till I was like 4 or 5.
Okay.
Young parents. We moved to New Mexico to be closer to a family member who was sick, and she ended up living. That was great. And living out in LA, specifically in California, is important to my whole story because my mom and dad both spoke Spanish as like the first language in the house,
Okay.
but learned English early on being here in America. I'm like 5th or 6th generation American. The land essentially changed while my great-great-grandparents were in Texas, the Las Cruces, New Mexico area, and they like their kids essentially became first-gen American, right? So my mom made the choice to not teach my sister or I Spanish and to not talk Spanish in the household at all. And why that's relevant is because in the Los Angeles County education system at the time, there was a lot of discrimination happening if you knew any Spanish. Not for everyone, but large brushstroke, it was known that if you spoke Spanish, it was likely that, or if they had any inclination that Spanish was spoken at home, they're likely to place you in the slower, less accelerated learning path.
No way.
Right? So it's like, that's known as ESL here in Arizona. I'm not sure if
Yeah,
that's a federal
yeah,
thing, but it's
right.
ESL.
I see.
So it's like very basic. The kids are a grade or 2 behind, but they're in the same grade as you. And so my mom didn't want for that to be the case. So they only taught us English. So right now I'm learning Spanish in Duolingo. Like, yeah, I'm on like a 40-day streak. I just started. I'm brand new to the whole Duolingo
That's
thing.
awesome.
But I would like to learn Spanish to be able to travel
Right.
and just to like train my mind a little bit. Like, haven't learned anything new in a while, so
Right.
that is also attractive to me. And Duolingo gamifies it, so it's kind of cool.
I like that.
But why that's so important is because like everything in my life now comes from that decision my mom made before I was born.
Wow.
So I do a lot of public speaking. I'm on a lot of podcasts. I'm making content, right?
Right.
And like the one compliment I've consistently got across my life, being personable and those approachable, like that is largely one of them, or a compliment I get a lot. But the biggest one I've always gotten is my articulation.
Mm.
I'm not the smartest person. Never in honors, barely passed high school. Like I had to really, really try in high school, and I didn't do anything extra. I didn't have any college ambitions, like maybe community, but I went so far as to like my freshman year of high school, I wasn't going to take another year of language, which you had to have to go to a university.
Right.
I wasn't going to take a fourth year of math because I'm terrible at math and because I didn't have university ambitions. Like
Right.
maybe community college, but after that, my vision was not long. Like I didn't know. I felt like I was always wanting to do something bigger, maybe feeling like I was meant for something bigger, and like the normal path wasn't for me. But that can also leave you super lost in American society.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And that might be something that's very exclusive to the first world and more of the American society.
Right.
Because then anywhere else, you just got to be working, right?
Right.
You got to be getting things done. So everything that ended up happening between that decision my mom made before I was born, right, with my sister in our home, to doing what I do now in coaching, in wholesale and negotiating deals,
Right.
in creating content, and also in previous factors of my life, being a leader and still being a leader, right? Like
Mhm.
at a small level, my family, and then also through my clients and through my audience and through teaching and putting myself out there. The constant compliment I've always gotten is how articulate I am. And that all came from a decision that was made without
Yeah.
me being involved in it, right?
That's
So I
true.
say all that to say, and because I know a lot of people listening to this are at different points in their journey, we're all trying to get somewhere,
Right.
myself included, yourself included,
Right.
is that I come from a very similar background with no unique advantages. But if I have one, it's that I hit the lottery with parents.
Mm. Yeah, I remember us talking about this.
I hit the
Yeah.
lottery with parents, and then secondary would be the decision for my mom to not teach us Spanish because that made my English so much better, so much faster. I've gotten this
Right.
compliment being in the grocery cart seat where I was old enough to walk, but I'm in the grocery car seat, right? To keep your
Right.
kid,
Yeah,
3 years old. I would scare people with my conversation skills. Like someone's gonna come up to pinch my cheeks, or
Right,
like,
right,
oh
right.
my God, he's so cute, or something, and I'm asking them a full blown question.
I see.
Right?
Yeah.
So like that decision went so far for me, and I hit the jackpot with parents. Everything else has been effort. Some of it has been effort and opportunity, right? Which kind of creates, I don't know what the exact quote is, but maybe it's effort plus opportunity equals luck.
Right.
I've had a lot of lucky situations in my life of meeting the right person at the right time, being in the right room at the right time, having the skills that I had in that room at the right time and getting different opportunities than other people. But
Right.
a lot of that has just come from like being willing to be scared, but also put myself forward and push myself forward.
Mhm.
But everything comes down to hitting the lottery with parents and the language part of my life.
Right.
And I know that's not everyone's advantage. I know good now in my adult life, I know good parents are really hard to come by.
Right.
I know
Right.
that's a rarity,
Yeah.
right? Because we're all like, we think adults, when we're kids, we think adults have it all
Yeah,
figured out.
always.
And then when you become an adult, you realize that they're just big kids
Mhm.
that don't have a way to get it out like we did as infants, like to cry and to get over it,
Right.
right? Or to take a nap and get over it. We just hold that in and store traumas and then be messed up with real people in real life
Yeah.
for the entirety of our lives.
Right.
Right. So I know that's very few people's unique advantage, but I say that to say that whoever's listening right now, your advantages are yours.
Right.
My advantages are mine. Whoever's listening, your advantages you have are yours, even if you haven't sorted out with them yet. And now what I'm trying to do, this is like in the last week, is take an outside view of my life, and I'm asking myself a different question. And that question is, how can I take advantage of my advantages? I can consult someone else all day. I can coach someone else all day, an exact thing they need to do in their business and in their life most of the time in order to get over some sort of roadblock to hit a goal they're going towards. Doing that with yourself is a lot harder,
Yeah.
right?
Totally agree.
It's always harder. There are very few people taking your own advice is the easiest thing that comes to you. It's one of the hardest things to do, or to know what you have to do and then actually go and get it done. With no
100%.
coach, with no mentor, because you could pay everyone any amount in the world, but you still have to do the thing. And you got to do it daily and consistently and over a long period of time. And then opportunity and luck strikes, right?
Yep.
So now I'm looking at my life and saying, what are your real advantages? And then like, how do I take advantage of them? I said the advantages with my childhood. I have different advantages now where I'm at in business and life. So now it's a different question of like, how do I exploit myself, for lack of better words? How,
Right.
like if someone was going to take advantage of me to use me for my skill sets, how would they do it? And I'm trying to think in this different way to say, how do I take advantage of my advantages now?
Right. Yeah.
Totally different question. I'm going into this next
No,
year
that's a
with,
great way to you have to be honest with yourself for one.
which is hard.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
not easy.
No, you have to be honest. You have to look at your problems, look at your faults, and then take a step forward and have bravery to call it out for yourself. Like you can you can keep all those things internal, but to actually start calling it out for yourself is the thing, right?
And it's far easier to know and identify your flaws
Yes,
and to have your flaws top of mind. Anyone listening right now could create a list of their 10 flaws or ask 3 people around them and have a list of 50.
it's true.
And so like that's always hard. The human mind always goes as out of survival to a negative standpoint. What could go bad?
Mhm.
What could happen that would make this thing fail? What could go wrong in my life? Versus the harder questions, which is what could go right?
Right.
What could go better than I'm expecting?
Well, then let me ask you this, because this is what I've learned from you being around you is you do see problems, but you see them as challenges, right? You do have things that come your way that might stop you, but you have a mindset that's positive. You always have the spin as a positive thing. What brought you to that point, or how do you keep that mindset going?
Yeah, and that's like not the easiest mode to always be in because the reality of life for the overwhelming majority of people is that things will go wrong.
Yeah.
And you'll remember and hold on to those things far more than you'll remember the things that go right or that could.
True.
So like I don't like when you asked me as I was hearing your question, I was like, I don't know. Like I don't know. But I think
It's just you.
But I think I know. But I think
Okay,
I do know. And
okay.
it's something that everyone could implement in their life. Everyone could install in their life and foster the muscle of, and it's gratitude.
Mhm.
And you've known my story where I've gone in and out of the new age spirituality
Right.
and in and out of Christianity.
Yep.
And without getting into what's right or what's wrong for any person, right?
Right.
The common denominator between what I've learned from both of those is gratitude. With Christianity, it's a very specific kind of gratitude.
Mhm.
It's a almost like I've never had this conversation go this way before ever, right?
Right.
I'm thinking out loud right now. It's almost like I had a word for it. Gratitude's the common denominator there, and it's what I do is to stay in gratitude. It's a ultimate gratitude is
Right.
what I've learned in my journey with Christianity now.
I see.
Of being born in it, not really having a choice, and that was life. Trying to find my own ways, and then realizing, oh wow, this is exactly what the opposition wants for us: is to think that we're God, to think that we have control over everything, and how especially our Western civilization, for those not listening here in the States, it's like all rigged in a way to make you not a good person, but it leads you to think that you're going to be a really good person or be the person on top or be the person with the most or like all
Right.
the American dream, so to say.
Yeah, yeah,
right. But it's gratitude, it's ultimate gratitude. And so in and out of both of those pieces of my life, it's like finding how can I be thankful in advance.
Right.
I want this thing to go my way. How can I be experiencing the gratitude for that here and now,
Yeah.
accepting it now? And that's also what we learn through prayer,
Right.
right?
Faith. Yep.
Exactly. And so like in both of those cases of the New Age and Christianity, it's gratitude and it's praying as if it's true.
Yeah.
Right? Like as I've gotten older, I didn't understand like my grandma when she's driving gets anxiety. Right? Like my sister will sometimes get anxiety. My dad will sometimes get anxiety. I didn't know what that meant. I thought it was BS. Now I realize how unsafe driving is.
Right.
Right? And so now in my head, I'm trying to have not thoughts of tragedy and something bad happen, because that's a reality and that's a probability.
Right.
I think that there is a force that calls to you what you do focus on and what you think about.
Yeah.
Because I think all day we're praying and having a conversation with God in our head, whether we're being conscious of it or not.
Yeah. 100%.
Whether-
I agree.
And if you don't want to bring God into it, we're having a conversation with ourselves in our own head all day long. And when you're looking for things to go bad, I think you end up finding more situations in life where things go bad versus going good. And it's like, I don't have the energy and the time for thinking how every situation can go in my favor. But if I'm just thankful for the fact that I woke up this morning and I can wipe my own ass,
That's the truth.
everything else is a minor detail. Everything that I'm worried about is first world problems that a lot of the world would die or kill a lot of people. to
Right.
have,
Yeah.
right?
That's actually really hard to get across to a lot of people. We live in a society where, we got payments, we have bills, we have all these things that surmount us every single day. So for us to bring it down to that level of just having clothes on our back, clean water, it creates a positive mindset.
Clean water available to you at the second you want it.
Yeah, literally.
From a spout.
Yeah, from a spout. Yes.
We piss and poop in clean water.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
And it's like, I've never had something, I've had asthma bouts where nothing else matters in that moment besides my next breath.
Right.
Okay. I
Right.
can't do anything. Everything was on my schedule, cleared, not even cleared. It's just gone. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Commitments.
That's crazy to think
Things
about.
that I want to do, work out, accomplish, hang out with people, all those things, those are no longer a thing.
Jeez.
Right? Because like I'm focused on my next breath.
Wow.
I didn't have that till later in my life. However, I don't want to have to go through something so bad. Right?
Right.
Because we all have had someone in our life die from cancer, whether it's close or a little bit outside of our inner, our close family. And we've seen how much life can change in a second, whether it's something like cancer or a car accident or one of those things, or losing a limb or diabetes or whatever the thing is.
Right.
Like that changes your life for forever. And changes any goals or things you have. The world like does not care.
So
The world
true.
goes on. That next moment, right? That next hour, that next day, it leaves you behind essentially. So it's like, I don't know when that moment would or could happen or any of those things. I can only control we can control less than the amount of fingers we have on one hand.
Mm-hmm.
Is the reality,
Yeah.
right? So it's like, if you like, and for most people, it's like maybe only 3 or 4 of the fingers that we have on a hand, like where your eyes are at and looking at, what your thoughts are thinking about, where your body is. And already for most people, it's like, I got to stare at a computer screen and my body has to be in a physical place at work for X amount of time. Okay, well, what's the rest of the time? What's that going towards? You can't control the things, but what you can control is your, like, I can be moody as well when my blood sugar gets low and I haven't eaten in a while. Like, I'm a different Jeremy.
Right.
I'm a different Jeremy.
Yeah.
Without my caffeine in the morning. I
Right.
can go without it, but I want to have my caffeine in the morning with my coffee, right?
Yep.
But all those things can affect my mood or my outlook kind of minorly in the world. But when you get down to the facts, it's like my 2 feet work and no one else is having to wipe my ass for me.
Yeah.
Like everything else is really a minor detail that we should be thankful for. If you have financial problems, relationship problems, all those things, but your body still works and you're still functioning, how can you then find the good in that bad? Because there's bad and good, and there's good and bad.
Is this teachable? Is what comes to mind?
Yeah, but it doesn't happen in an instant unless you have something tragic happen to you or to someone around you. That's the hard part. So like,
Right.
don't wait for something terrible to happen
Right. Yeah.
to making that scenario. It's choosing in advance to say, wow, things are actually good right now. And wow, everything feels bad, but what is good? Okay, I can breathe. I can walk. I like, even in the worst of situations, you can find something going good for you. You have to find that and hold on to it and focus on it. And when you focus on it or you pray about it, whatever your way to that is, I think that starts to expand. And I think that can be measured quantumly. Do I have the tools for that? No.
Right.
Is it more of a hunch? Yes. Is modern day science starting to show that? Absolutely.
Right.
And like, our thoughts can be read miles away. Thoughts can be picked up miles away. This is shown with like twins. This is shown, my sister's been obsessed with something called, I think it's the something tapes, but it's a story about all this research being done to the autistic segment of our world and our community, and how the telepathy tapes. These kids are different. They learn different, they communicate different, or they don't communicate at all. They have control of their bodies or they don't have control at all, but what they're finding as a commonality in many of them is telepathy. And they can know what the parent is looking at or thinking when they think it, and they can't communicate to them in the words and hand signals, all the things we're using, but they have different ways they're starting to pull that out. So if our thoughts are measurable to some degree outside of us, meaning like, you ever been around someone, you picked up on their vibe?
Yeah.
Without talking to them.
Right. Yeah.
Or you know someone and they enter the room and they're having a different vibe and you know something's up and off.
Right.
Or if you've ever been in like a work or social scenario and when that one person enters, everyone's vibe changes. Or if their vibe changes in the middle of everyone's vibe changes. It's a little bit of that, right? We pick up on cues of things physically around us, and we're picking up on things that are around us too. Our subconscious is taking it all in. We got off on a little bit of a tangent there, but it's like, I think what you focus on starts to expand. And if you focus on good and you learn that over time,
right,
you find a way in the morning to get in gratitude as early as you can in the day, hopefully in bed when your eyes first open.
Yeah, agreed.
Like, I got in the routine and I kind of got out of it for a couple years. I'm back there now, which, like, when I wake up, at least when my feet hit the ground, I say thank you every step. I say thank you, Jesus, now.
Right,
because I know where my true power is.
Right.
I know where the true power is now, but it didn't change when I was doing it 10 years ago and saying thank you for every step. How much that changed and altered my life.
I love that.
It's just like, how do you get into gratitude as early as possible? And even when things are bad, how do you get back to it as fast as possible? Is that trainable? Yes, that takes minimum of 21 days to get into a habit, right? But like, how do you make it a lifestyle? And then you end up talking to someone else about it and it becomes more ingrained in yourself. And now you kind of lit the candle of someone else to do that same thing. So now when you're down, they pick you up. They're not used to seeing you down. You're the gratitude person. You're always thankful. Now they're going to be there for you when your candle has gone out too. So it's like making a world of it in yourself. And then like, I think that that's something so contagious that others can't not want a part of it.
Yeah, that's 100% how I feel about you. That's why I wanted you on here. You have that contagious positive vibe. So, along the lines of bring it back to entrepreneurship and having the mindset, I have a photo of you that I found because it's my job now to do these
You're
things.
digging here, aren't you?
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
So I have a photo of you. It's really hard to believe that it is you, and it was a before and after photo
Okay.
of you, and I'll put it up on the screen when we do the edits. But that's you, right?
Yep.
And how old were you on the picture holding the Starbucks?
I was a senior in high school right there.
No way.
I was either a senior or, yeah, I was a senior in high school.
Just
It
in
was one of
case I
two.
don't.
I'm almost positive I was a senior or it was the year after my senior year of high school.
Okay.
One of the two.
Okay. And
Not
then
far off of each other though.
and then to the picture with you with the gold chains.
Yeah.
What? How far was that?
That was 2018.
Okay.
So 2000, that's 10 years.
Oh wow.
In
Okay.
between that and like that photo to now is what, 6 years?
Yeah.
Maybe last 4 or 5 years?
Yep.
No, more than that. Maybe 7 or 8 years now in between that second photo.
Oh, right.
and me
Yes,
now,
yes,
too.
yes.
Yeah. Because I look at photos then and I look small then.
Right.
I look small in weight, but I look small muscularly compared to like what I see myself now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my question to this photo, I mean, obviously I'm a bigger guy, but what I've learned, it's not about the weight. It's what's the internal belief inside, right? And that's when people begin to see change, whether it's physical, monetarial, spiritual, relational. It's the belief on the inside. So what came to you at that moment? It's like, what, I need to lose weight or I need to change something. Like what happened to get you to where you're at now?
Yeah. So I grew up mostly thinking I was just fat.
Okay.
So I mentioned how we moved from California to New Mexico for 2 years.
Yep.
And then we moved to here, Chandler, Arizona in 96 or 97. Been in Arizona since,
Oh, wow.
basically, with a 6-month span where I wasn't in my whole life between then and now. And in like second grade, my mom went back to work. I was still working full time, but like in that time, between the move from New Mexico to Arizona and starting school, like I just became overweight. It was like papas and chorizo, which is like potatoes and eggs and chorizo, like tortillas.
Mm.
It was not worrying about what I put in my mouth, not knowing any better. And I kind of thought that it was just like how I was.
Mm.
And then I played lacrosse in high school, dropped a little bit of weight. I even had like a family member that was living with me that hadn't seen me in like a month or two. And she was like shocked when she saw me afterwards because I probably lost 15, 20 pounds just from doing anything physical. Just not like sitting on my ass after school, right?
Mhm.
Like doing anything will start to propel that. I think a lot of it was a self-conscious thing that I wanted to make the change. I don't know if it was ever a thought of like, oh my God, I can be skinny too. Or, oh my God, I'm not like fat. And that's just like my curse for life. I think a lot of it for me was information and then the desire to not feel how I was feeling. I also went through, I've had eczema my whole life, but like I don't have it right now.
Mm.
And I had like, I would scratch myself in my sleep. It was just a never ending rash whenever one would pop up. It was just there for years,
Wow.
right? Like back of my legs, or like inside of my elbows. Ended up getting it on my face and eyelids at one point. And like come to find out that was from stuff going on in my stomach. Standard American diet, everyone's body is different. So someone could eat like crap their whole life and it not affect them like it affected me,
Right.
right? Like maybe they get overweight, but maybe they don't have any of the other issues that I had with it. So I went to a naturopathic doctor, found out I had a gut condition called Candida. We all have Candida. It's usually in our colon, helps to digest food as part of the digestive system. But when you're eating breads, sugars, all that sort of stuff, it will grow from your colon all the way into all of your intestines. And when that happens, your body has to find a way to get rid of it because if not, it'll start to puncture your intestines. That's called leaky gut. And now your bloodstream starts to go in and then your food starts to go into your bloodstream. That creates all these allergies. I was having borderline issues from that too. And so I went on a cleanse. I went plant-based for like 4 or 5 years. I went extreme.
Yeah.
Like I don't do anything lightly. That's one
I can
thing.
see that,
Like if
right.
you haven't learned that about me yet, me and
Right.
Shaq have not known each other for even a year.
You know,
Yeah.
a few months.
Yeah, maybe 9 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So we still find out stuff about each other all the time.
Yeah.
Even here today. But I did like plant-based for like the better part of 5 years of maybe some fish here and there if that was the only option or if like my body really wanted it. I'd have times like that. I no longer do the plant-based thing. I think of plant-based and vegan as more of a therapeutic diet than I look at as the best way to live and the best way to be nutritious. But here's what I would say now is like what I know now and what I added up to now is I had a lack of information. I was a kid, so you're not into that sort of stuff. And I'm sure there's some kids that are. That will go the age of the internet. It's different than when I was under 15. It was available, but it wasn't like the thing you didn't Google, ask
No.
Jeeves. These things weren't common, mainstream. It's almost like how Chat GPT is now. A few of us kind of use it that are super techy and nerdy, but my dad will end up using it as old as he is in the
100%.
next 10 years.
100%.
It's like he's on TikTok.
Oh, sorry.
You're good.
All right, got it, Mike. I'm on it right now.
All good?
All good. Yes, I just have to pay up for something.
Nice. This is your day, huh?
Yes.
Sucker.
Yeah, yeah. That's exactly it. Shoot, completely forgot to do that. But I think we get talking. I'm listening. So, I totally agree with. I've been doing those ChatGPT videos, AI stuff,
Yep.
right? And I totally, totally agree with you that in 5 to 10 years, it's going to be a part of our daily life.
It'll be like saying Google it.
Yes.
Something, whether it's ChatGPT it or something else emerges. And if making content and these social media platforms were around before Google is, in a hypothetical non-existent scenario, there would be gurus and experts talking about how to use Google
Yes.
on Reels and TikTok and all that sort of thing. So in time, ChatGPT, these AI things will all get to that point. But I think it was a little bit of a lack of information that I had, because now what I know is that like it's only me and information. Information's the only thing in between me and what I want next, where I want to go. Everything's been figured out. There's very few things that have not been figured out in some way. And like if you were starting an AI company, yeah, it's not figured out yet, but you could look at how tech companies are made over the last 50 years, because the fundamentals are still the fundamentals,
Correct.
right? And now you just take, the fundamentals will always be the fundamentals, but the rules change.
Yes, they always do. And the speed of getting to that point has changed dramatically.
100%.
Just talking about, like you said, back when I was 12, I couldn't find the information about how to eat healthy and eat well. It was all from my surroundings.
Yep.
Now I just type in anything on Instagram about health and it's like all over my face.
So
Right?
it's overload.
Yeah, overload, yes. And back then, if you wanted to start a business in the 90s, to even understand how to start a call center business like I have, you got to be calling friends and family, or hopefully know somebody that
gotta know
even has an
someone.
idea. Exactly.
You got to know someone who's been doing it for 30 years.
Yes.
Who probably doesn't want to give you the time of day in the first place.
Yeah, that's
And you
the
got to
truth.
find leverage on them in order to get that.
Yes.
And give them a reason to.
Right.
It's just not like that anymore,
No,
right?
now you can look it up and figure out things just by going on YouTube, you know? So I respect the fact that you got to this point and you lost the weight, but more importantly, you felt how you felt. Like you realized you didn't want to feel that way anymore and you made the change, right? And I'm on that journey. Like every day I'm like, oh geez, I don't want to feel this way. I want to keep feeling better, right? So how do you stay in that point of feeling better? Like what are things that you do in your life outside of maybe just food? Like what do you do that keeps you staying that same vibe, feeling good every day?
For sure. I think it is important to state how important the the nutrition aspect is of it.
Okay.
I still be eating Rice Krispie treats every single day. I had some chocolate fudge last night. And a
love
Rice Krispie earlier. I had chicken nuggets before I got over here. But like, here's what I've learned on the other side of it now, because I've also had some scenarios where I put a little bit of the weight back on. Like I lost in 2015, I probably got down to about 160 from 210. Had to buy different clothes. The pants were not wearing, the belts weren't even holding the pants up. Like I was poking holes in. I was like, okay, there's too much flapping off the side of the belt now. I'm like tucking it in three loops behind me, literally.
Yes,
Okay.
I know, yes.
And so I had to buy new clothes. And then I put the weight back on. I got back up to like 190 on the scale.
Oh my gosh.
Those same pants were now super tight on me.
Oh no.
I had to go dig out the belt that had the extra holes on it that I was now past having to regress, right? And like that messed me up too. Right. And then
Right.
so like eventually you get back on the train, do what worked before and that sort of thing. If I had to sum everything up that worked for me though, and also what I still do today, it's a couple things.
Okay.
It's any number you want to weigh is associated with how many calories you got to put in your body
Okay.
to get to that or to maintain that.
And what's that number for you?
So like I want to weigh 130. I weighed 127 a year and a half ago, but I've put on muscle since then. I'm 143 on average as you look at me right now. Had some Christmas, had some New Year's, had some fun, right? But like New Year's, 3,000 calories. I think it's close to 3,700 calories, which is more than double, close to triple the amount of calories I take in on a day.
Okay.
So this is kind of multifaceted. So I eat in a caloric deficit. I take the weight I want to weigh and I subtract 300 to 500 from it. That's going to be my new daily calorie intake.
Okay.
So if I wanted to maintain at 143, you could run the math right now. That'd be 143 times 12. 143 times 15 would be the amount of calories that I would need to eat. My phone's being used right now to maintain 143. And if I just ate that every single day, I would fluctuate a pound, give or take, above or below 143.
I like that.
Now, if I want to get below 143, I need to be eating less than that on a daily basis. So I try to take between 300 to 500 calories below that. So like today, like I know this all so much now that I have systems around it. MyFitnessPal is part of the system.
Okay.
How I live my life is a part of it, which we'll get into here in a second, because I think it's worth noting. If you have the desire to either put on weight, to lose weight, or to maintain your weight, it's all relevant.
Agreed.
I eat 1690 every single day. So that's thing number one.
Okay.
I also do intermittent fasting.
Okay.
So I don't eat
Remember
for the
telling me
first
about that.
5 to 6 hours of my day. That is something right now that I think there are very few people listening that couldn't benefit from that. You're giving your digestive system a break. Your mental clarity goes through the roof. Think about starting your workday. If you only have cold brew coffee in you, like no sugar, no milk, no BS in it, or you just have some caffeine from a pre-workout that doesn't have sugar or anything like that, your focus is absolutely insane. And you're not thinking about food. And then when time comes around to eat, you're like enjoying it so much more. When I'm eating, if I wake up and just eat my first meal like the average person does, I am hungrier sooner than that 6-hour window would be alone. And I start to get tired of eating. And I love food. Food is like 4 out of my 5 waking thoughts besides thank you. Like I had never missed a meal in my life till I found the intermittent fasting. I've done the 1 meal a day too. I think there's a purpose case for that. But when you think about like what you can make a lifestyle, I don't eat for the first 5 to 6 hours of my day. I work out 3 times a week. Inside of knowing my calories, right? If you want to lose weight, take the weight you want to weigh, times that by 12, that would be your caloric intake, or you times it by 15 and just take away 300 to 500 calories from that on a day. I track everything I eat. I'm weighing it on a scale. And if I don't have a scale with me, I'm like trying to use what I've learned of eyeballing and trying to, okay, does that look like an ounce? Does it look like 20 grams of cheese? Like I go retroactively. If I had stuff I didn't plan on eating, or New Year's parties, you know, we had chili beans and cheese, all these things out, a snack, all the good snacks out that we don't usually have around. And then I go and I put it in there, and I'll try to overestimate it just a little bit. But the next day I'm back on it. I fasted for maybe 10 hours the next day, getting 10,000 to 15,000 steps a day. That helps on top of the calorie deficit.
Right.
And then if, you know, calories aren't exact. All these people that put the nutrition facts, all these companies, they can be 20% off. And they use that to their advantage. Like an Oreo probably isn't 70 calories. It's probably closer to 100. But they have that 20% give or take kind of leeway. So now even if you're tracking it meticulously, you're still going to be over for the majority of the stuff we put in. Calorie deficit, 10,000 to 15,000 steps a day. I know you're doing steps a lot too. Still on the grind.
Yeah.
And then tracking the food I eat, which probably doesn't need to be a for life thing, but I think it's healthy if you've never done it and you're not in the body that you're wanting. Even if you want to put on size, same thing. It's not going to happen. You don't have to eat you don't nearly have to eat as much as what bodybuilding.com told us in 2010, because the science has changed. The facts have changed. The results have changed from it. Work out 3 times a week. And I don't work out super, super hard. I work out for an hour. I do very specific lifts inside of there. And you know, I don't have an aspiration to be a professional basketball player. So I'm not training for anything athletic. I'm training to look good, to feel good, to get stronger over time. Anyone who knows the conversation we're talking about, we talk about calories. It also matters what happens inside the calories. So I figure out, like people always say, a gram of protein per pound of body weight that you want to weigh. If you want to weigh 143, that science and teaching would teach you to eat 143 grams of protein, but I think the science shows differently. I eat 0.84 grams of protein per my body weight. So I take what I want to weigh, I multiply that by 0.84, so I'm at 106 to 109 grams of protein on a given day. That leaves me more room for carbs for the Rice Krispies, or the fries with the nuggets. I'm making those at home.
Yeah.
Right? Shout out Kirkland, lightly breaded chicken chunks, amazing in the air fryer. I'll get frozen fries and make it at home so that I can weigh it.
Right.
And I enjoy it. Like I like eating Cane's and Chick-fil-A. Left to my own devices, I'd be at In-N-Out every day. I'd be at Chick-fil-A or Cane's. I'd be at Cane's on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'd be eating out all the time. I enjoy being served. I enjoy service. I never worked a restaurant job. I'm obsessed with like the restaurant industry though. Like I would love to own a restaurant one day. But left to my own devices, I could be super lazy with the food and just like at the gluttony of the taste and, you know, all those things. So I try to find similar foods that I can eat at home that I enjoy just as much, or at least it cures that craving. Like I'm not craving Chick-fil-A or Cane's. When I drive by, I'm like, oh, I haven't been there in a while.
Right.
But because I get my taste of that almost every single day.
Right.
So like I found foods I like that fit in the calories. 1690 is not a lot of calories.
Right.
It's a deficit. But that fast makes it easier, because that can turn into 3 small meals now, just between noon and 8 p.m. essentially, or that changes into 2 big meals, or to 2 decent meals and a dessert at the end. I can live on that.
Right.
I can live on that because I've also had the situations where I'm like, it's eggs and spinach, right? And then it's like salad with chicken in it for lunch. And it's like that leaves you so hungry that you're bound to fail. So the biggest thing I think that's worked in my favor is I found a system
Oh yeah, I was
that
about
I
to
can
say.
live. And I have to give credit because I didn't invent it.
Right.
I've leveraged it. And this came from Greg O'Gallagher at Kinobody. And his stuff has changed my life so much that like anything he comes out with, like without question, it's take my money. He dropped a clothing line. Wearing one of his shirts right now. Take my money. And his clothes are so dope. Anytime his clothes come out, a new program, a new supplement, a new thing that he's doing in his own life and stuff. Take my money, or I will follow the advice blindly, just because of how good his stuff has been to me.
Right.
Like I wish people could find a Greg O'Gallagher in every area of their life. Like my sisters, we have a lot in common together with our fitness goals and our ups and downs. And she was super athletic, where I was super chubby. We kind of reversed roles at one point in our life. We all live very similarly. I wish she had a Greg O'Gallagher for girls. Like I don't know one.
Right.
Right? There's some fitness influencer and all that, but a lot of it is still need a pound or a gram of protein per body weight. It's workouts that take an hour and a half.
Yeah.
It's like all these unrealistic things that you can't have a job or a life and do. You can't have a social life. You can't have a couple drinks if that's a part of your social life or part of what you like to do. And it's like Greg dialed it in. And I pray everyone finds a Greg O'Gallagher for every area of their life they're looking to fix up, whether it's like relationships or it's business or it's entrepreneurial or it's some other thing you want to do. Keep fighting. I kind of feel like I got lucky in finding him, as I happened to follow and
that's
fight
good.
with him because he's not for everyone. Like if you went and looked him up, it's like, oh, this guy looks like a douche. This
Right.
guy looks like a Chad or something like that. It's like, dude, if you can get beyond that and you listen to where he's coming from, dude, his stuff is amazing. So I follow his system to a T, and I absolutely love every part of it. Every part of it's enjoyable.
I don't know Greg, but I will definitely have to look him up.
You got to check him out.
I will.
He has like the dream physique already,
Right.
and the dream life, and the cars, and like the all of it. So it's a little distant,
Right.
but his stuff freaking works when it comes to
I like that
Health
you
and wellness.
you said that. Like he has the physique.
Has
He has,
all.
has it all,
right?
right?
The business, the
Right.
girls,
Try-
all of it.
He's already arrived.
Yep.
Right. So let's zoom into now in the last few years. I put a little synopsis together of the last maybe 5 years, 5 to 6, 7 years. I want to go back to Apple and then up to this point. So at Apple, I coined your podcast and me meeting with you as the father of the selling experience of an iPhone in the store, right? So tell us, I know a little bit of it, but tell us how that came about again. Let them know. I don't know how many people know about it, but I think that story of you excelling really high under an umbrella or a ceiling, a glass ceiling, and then wanting to get out. So take us back to Apple, how that came about, and then how you wanted to get out.
Yeah, I think I was gonna skip over this, but I think it's important to set the table with the situation at hand, which
Okay.
was I got hired at Apple in 2010 or 2011.
Okay.
This is like right at the tail end of the recession.
True.
The housing economy crashing and all of that. So I say that because when I got hired at Apple, they weren't hiring.
I remember you telling me this.
Okay, they hadn't hired in a long time.
Right.
And like for a long time for Apple, it would be 3 months or more. It'd probably been 6 to 9 months. They hadn't had the core trainings where they get everyone together. Like Apple doesn't just hire one person; they have a whole thing, and everyone gets together. It's like 30 new hires and multiple
Yeah.
stores and all this thing, right? They do it the Apple way, which is fair play. So they weren't hiring. 2 of us got hired. One guy didn't make it through the core training for some personal reason or another. So I'm like the only new hire there, and like I was the only new one for 6 months. No one had gotten a promotion in like a year and a half in there, and everyone was kind of getting salty. Like the environment I was walking into was like everyone had been in their role for a while, and when you're an Apple, you're typically ambitious, and when you like it, like you want more opportunities, you want all that. And Apple, over time, while I was there, became you need to become the master of your role. You need to get used to the mundane stuff, or you need to leave and go become a manager at another retail store, another place that would lend expertise here. Quit and then get rehired at that thing. What ended up becoming the narrative. So it
Yes.
changed over time. 6 months in, working part time, I decided I wanted to be full time. No positions had been hired for full time in a long time, longer than what they were hiring for, because people got, things happen, people quit, they leave, a slot opens, but nothing major of announcements had happened since well before I'd gotten there. 6 months in, I decided I want to go full time. I want to start taking this serious. I want to retire from this company was the thought.
Oh wow.
Right. And so I started taking it serious. I wasn't just showing up anymore and like loving it. I was like applying myself.
Like actually applying yourself.
Yes, and I wasn't doing it for attention, or I wasn't kissing up to managers. I would have gone so much further making better relationships with managers
That's
versus
how it is. Yeah.
what happened was I started shining, and now managers were like, Jeremy's my guy.
Ah,
Jeremy was doing that on my shift. He always works the 4 to 10. Yeah, that's my shift. I like we workshop that, or we like, and I was like, I'm take some credit. Like it's not all me. Like I can give that to people. Like it's all good. But I would have gone way further had I kissed up to management. And I'm sure others saw it as that because they don't see the behind the scenes and how I thought and all that stuff. And I've gotten kind of used to that as well. When you're ambitious,
Yeah,
people aren't going to like it.
Right.
And that's a reality about ambition. It's great if you have supporters, but for most people, supporters are fewer and further than the detractors or the people that will come up with their own assumptions and play their own limiting beliefs in their head for what they're seeing someone else do or you do in this case.
Right.
Before I started working at Apple, I was a huge fanboy and I used to watch all the Steve Jobs keynotes.
Same.
And one day through, I'd watch them all, but I'm like going through them again, like bored, whatever. I came across the old clip Steve played of it's an update to the investors essentially that these stores are opening and here they are. They announce they're going to make stores. It's like a year later. Hey, here's our first 2 stores. Let me take you behind the scenes before they open up. It was Tyson's Corner and Glendale Galleria or the Galleria for the first 2.
God.
Steve gives a tour of, I think, Tyson's Corner. I think it's in Virginia, something like that for whatever reason. They open up on the same day, 2 hours from each other, something like that, and as far as like time zones. But in that video that he played on stage, I think at WWDC or at Macworld at the time, he gave a tour of the store front to back. And he just shared his little insights and why and how things are working. He showed the red phone they used to have behind the Genius Bar. He showed how you could walk up and play with the computers, internet, they're wireless. They weren't even security locked down at the time because he didn't want that.
Wow.
He wanted you to experience a product how it was, not like Best Buy where there's cables and alarms. He didn't want any of that. That had to come with time, with evolving the retail stores. So he does his whole store tour, and then it goes back to the keynote, right? So fast forward a couple years now, I'm working at Apple. That clip comes to me in my head while I'm at work. And I go home that night. This is about 6 months in, around the almost exact same time period where I decided I want to go full time, and I ran back the store tour. My store was the exact layout he did the store tour in. I worked at RO26, so the 26th store.
Okay.
And so he had shown store 1 or 2 when he did his tour on stage. And I watched that little 5-minute clip probably 10 or 15 times that night. And I went back into work the next day. It was like a Saturday, so more of a daytime shift. And I told myself, I'm going to start giving store tours and I'm going to start doing it how Steve did. I said how the store was because my layout was the exact same, but things had changed. Where the Genius Bar was, it was now in the back of the store. When you walk in, it's the first thing you see in the back versus it was off on the side.
Okay.
And the kids area wasn't in the front like in his store tour, it was over in the back. And so I put on my lanyard, I clock in, I go out to the sales floor, and first family that I see, I walk up to, I say, hey guys, welcome to the Apple store. And they totally do the look at the computer or look at the spec little placard that's right there to like not make eye contact with the salesperson. I'm kind of used to it, right? Like I'm not making commissions or anything, so it changes the whole vibe. I'm pretty sure Apple is still that way. And they're like, try not to make eye contact when I greet them. I'm like, welcome in, let me know if you have any questions. They're like, okay, we will. And they're like very standoffish still. And I go, has anyone ever taken you guys on a tour of the store? And this family of 4 or 5 just stop in their tracks and they all look up. They're like, what do you mean? They're like, we bought in thousands of dollars because everyone feels that way, right? Thousands of dollars in machines. We spend money here all the time. No one's ever given us a tour of the store. I'm like, wow, I'm sorry to hear that. I'd be honored if I could be the first. And they're like, let's do it.
Cool.
I walk them, we're at the very front of the store, but I walk them outside and I take them in from there and I do the exact flow Steve did. Here's the software. We have so many titles that you can get everything you're needing on a PC. We have it here for the Mac and it's probably better. Here's the computers, internet. You ever need internet? You're on a break at lunch, come to the mall, come and access it here and hang out for as long as you want. There's no time limit. Here's the creative tables, which was a new thing before Steve had did his tour versus mine, which was you can come in here and sit down for an hour, one-on-one with the creative. They'll show you how to use all aspects of your Mac, all the included applications, even Final Cut and yada, yada. They're like, I didn't know that. Like she taps the daughter. She's like, that'd be great. So you can come in and learn all the other stuff that we're, parents buy these machines, $1,000, $2,000, and the kids use it for Safari, right? They use it for internet browsing versus all these tools. So they have them on there, getting excited. And I take them to Genius Bar and I say how they get an appointment. They kind of know that. And then like the Genius looks up and waves. right? I take them over to a manager. They meet the manager real quick, right? And I didn't realize this because I'm so focused on like trying not to mess up, and I'm walking backwards. I'm trying to run to a customer. I'm trying not to like take a machine down or fall. And I'm like so glued in and doing this, and I didn't realize that by the time I got to the back of the store, the whole store was watching. I didn't stop and say, "Hey, everyone, we're going to do a store tour. Come and look." It wasn't anything like that. It was, "I'd love to give you one." But by the end of the store tour, everyone was watching me. And when I finished that store tour, there was an applause. That sounds like Apple's very thing. The new iPhone, everyone's clapping when you walk in for the launch. Like we're all
People
kind
were
of clapping.
clapping.
They were clapping. My team, right? Saturday, a bit more team members there, and customers were watching too. And so I think it was probably started by someone on the team,
And it just like stopped and just stared at
and
you.
kind of everyone just kind of like started in it. And
Right.
Apple, we have those sort of things too,
It's
like
true.
those situations where you celebrate,
Yeah.
right? Whether it's an employee leaving
leaving,
or
yeah,
something.
coming in, yes.
Exactly, we're very clap happy as an Apple culture, a retail culture, and I started doing that every shift. That led me to a bunch of opportunities as I started going up. But what the real kind of catapult here was, it was working so well, and my metrics had gone through the roof of all the Apple Care, the one-on-one, the Pro Care at the time, Mobile Me, which is now iCloud, that it became associated that when you do a store tour, ran the numbers, that your likelihood of having a complete solution or a couple of the extra services Apple offers, that the rate would go up.
Mhm.
And so it became a thing that every customer that buys a Mac now, here at Chandler, we're going to do a store tour.
Wow.
And so that got all the way up to district. I had other stores calling me, little old part-time Jeremy, calling to say, "What are you guys doing over there?" Or my manager pulling me into manager meetings where it's all of Apple retail on the phone. They're like, "Now we're going to hear from Little Kid." That was my nickname. Now we're going to hear from Little Kid. He's going to tell us how to do the store tour. They make a little joke. You can call him Little Kid or whatever,
Right.
but he's going to talk about what you guys are here for.
Yeah.
And I would tell him about the store tour and how we kind of high level, how we do it, yada, yada, a little bit of background. And I got up to district. I went all the way to corporate. I got all these opportunities because of it, essentially. And so it became a standard thing that we did, and we started doing it with all products. When you own a phone, anytime, hey, we started asking, "Is your first time here?" "Oh no, welcome back." "Okay, anyone ever taken a store?" We had a way that we did it, and
Still
like,
happens to this day.
right? And so it became a thing company-wide over time. Probably not in every single store and
Right.
everyone doing it, but the stores who were driven, and because there's always stores that are not, and it's in any organization, you're gonna have outperformers and underperformers and whatnot. But it became a thing. And it was really cool to be part of it, and like just take the part of Steve, because I'm one of his biggest fans,
Yeah.
right? Someone I look up to, a remote mentor of mine that I never got to meet and shake his hand, but I did get sent to WWDC that following year because of the store tour and all the things going on, and I got to be there for Steve's last keynote when he introduced iPhone 4 with FaceTime.
So cool.
Apple paid me to be there, per diem, hotel, flight, the whole
Because
nine.
of this.
I was the only person in the district that I was in. There's maybe like 12 of us from all of Apple retail, largely, and they chose me as the she could have chose someone in another state, like shit all,
Yeah.
and she chose me to do it. And so by that time I was full-time, and then I had on the low key, I became the first expert, or one of the first experts in the company. The first round they did it, and that's a position that's still there here to this day. So
Yeah.
there's so many other details I had to leave out a little bit in there, but
course, of
the
course.
store tour, taking some initiative.
Yeah, take me back to that moment. Like, it was just a Saturday. It's busy. People walking in and out, and you had the thought, "Hey, what if I do this?" Why did you feel like you could do it? Like, wouldn't you think, "Oh, maybe I might get in trouble, or am I gonna be drawing too much attention?" Like, what were your thoughts in that moment, and then why did you feel like you could do it?
Yeah, I think it's important to note that like when I was at Apple, like I drank the Kool-Aid
Yeah,
and I cared.
right. Yeah.
Right, I
We all
cared.
drink. Yeah.
And I felt like so many people don't take advantage of what the Apple Store has, owning a computer, when there's so much more that you could get out of your machine and out of yourself if you just knew it was there. If you just knew that you had the help there, if you knew that you could just pop in and ask a question or get help or technical support, whatever it is. And I knew their experience would be better. I cared, which is why I say that, right?
Mhm.
I heard someone ask, we're going to go off on a little side tangent here. I heard someone ask this question the other day that messed me up, because in my kind of newly found Christian journey, right? I gave my life to Christ about a year and a half ago now, just started going back to church, and I want to get more involved with the church. It's a big thing for me in 2025. But someone was talking about on TikTok how like they're that person that goes everywhere and like talks about Jesus. And we all know those people, and even for the Jesus believers, it's kind of like, I'm in a rush.
Yeah, right,
I gotta go get some ice cream over here. I'm doing this thing, right? You kind of don't want to stop with it. I'm more kind and soft to that sort of thing nowadays because now I know where they're coming from and what they mean and what's on the other side with that.
right.
And he was at a gas station. He was kind of busy. There's other people in line, but he still says it like, you know, I don't know how he said, do you have a second or like any of that? Like, do you know, Lord and Savior Jesus Christ? And the cashier responded with like, dude, I don't have time for that. And he goes, I'm used to getting no's to the question, but I went further and he said, has anyone ever loved you enough to share the gospels with you?
Wow.
Okay. And that for me was like, I don't know if I've ever had someone sit me down and be like, sharing the gospel with me, right?
Right.
Sharing what happened in history, sharing the facts that it isn't a story. Here's the accounts
Yeah.
and how you can tie it all back, right? And like, Jesus is the most famous person on earth. 2,000 years later,
Right.
tangent. Has anyone loved you enough to share the gospel with you? It's like, wow, that's crazy. I would love to use that one day. Or to help friends who may not see the same things the way as me, or family members who are going through a hard time or something like that. And to be a reason why they start to add it up for themselves. I had to go this whole backwards way around to realize how rigged everything is, how the last thing they want is for us to be loving Jesus. And to have Jesus, the last thing they want for us is to have a family. And to be having kids. It's like, why is that? We start to ask that question to so many things. It starts to lead you to very few answers as the commonality across everything here in this life is what I have found. And so while giving a scope tour is nothing close to sharing the gospels or loving someone enough to do it,
Right.
it's like one of those things
I see
that
what you're
like,
saying.
because I care and I know their experience is gonna be better, even if they don't buy the Apple Care, the Mobile Me, the Pro Care, the one-to-one that we had at the time. None
Yeah.
of those things exist besides Apple Care now. That their experience is gonna be so much better. They're gonna be so much more likely to buy. My company's gonna be more successful because of it. They'll come back as a returning customers, like all of these things, right? It's like the last thing I want to do is work somewhere I don't like. I got to work somewhere that I loved for the majority of the time I was there.
Right.
For 3 out of 4 years, or 3.5 out of the 4 years I was there. But it was one of those things that like I cared enough because that's how I want my mom to be treated.
Mm.
Right? Not hold anything back, not like overly sell her, but get her what she needs.
Yeah.
Or at least make her aware of it.
Yeah.
And I think there's a way to have that conversation. I think that's the conversation every salesperson wants to have, or anyone. We're in sales at every moment in our life, whether you're aware of it or not. You're trying to convince yourself of something, or you're trying to convince someone else of something, whether it's like, where are we going to go get food? Hey, should we do this podcast interview? Can you come and do it?
Right.
Do you want to be my friend? Do you want to still be in my life? Even though you don't say those things hardly ever, we're selling at every moment in our life. How do we show up, with how we live, with our energy, with our vibe? Oh, whether you're aware of it or not. Once you're aware of it, you can take ownership of it.
Right.
I think for a lot of people, they're just not aware of it, so they never take ownership of it until that moment happens. So a breakup happens, a friend leaves them, something tragic, God forbid, happens, and then we start to ask those sort of questions. But a lot of it came from that standpoint of, I know they're going to be better, and now as a shareholder. So when you get Apple stock, or you have the option for it, 10% of your check or less can go towards it. The quarter that I got my first stock options was the same quarter that Steve announced his second leave. It was his leave right before he passed.
Oh, wow.
And so stocks were at like, they ranged between $86 and I think 127 that quarter. And they take the first day of the quarter and the last day of the quarter. They take which price was less. They take the lesser price and they take 10% off that, and that's your Apple shares. Part-timers were getting like 2-3 shares at the time, but because the shares went down to $76 after all of that, I got like 8 shares my first drop. So like I'm a shareholder now too. Like I'm invested in the company. I want the company to do better. So I wasn't paid on commissions. I'm going to get paid the same hourly that if I do this tour, or if I go full out, or if I show my best or not. So I think a lot of it was like wanting to perform my best. When I find somewhere I can plug into and I believe in it,
Yeah.
you're not going to stop me. I'm going to rise to the top every time.
Right.
That's my personality. And I think everyone can glean something from that because I think it feels good to progress in something, and it doesn't feel all of that good to regress in something.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's like I applied that to Apple while I was there. I got to capitalize on it while I was there. I got a ton of opportunities for it. So did I think it was going to lead to all of that? I had no idea.
Right.
I had no idea.
But you never, that's the story of Jeremy. It's like you apply, once you're hooked in something and you want something and you're passionate about it, you're all in.
All in.
And from what I'm seeing is this has happened in your life a few times.
It has.
Right. And to take us to just before we go back to the Apple story, but Skills USA, you're a keynote speaker on December 4th, 2018, right? I don't know if you spoke before that or in a setting like that before. Oh, you have? Okay.
Oh, no, I'm just nodding.
Oh, okay. Did you speak at that keynote? in front of, it looked like a few hundred, few thousand of high school students before, or was that your first time speaking?
That was not my first time.
Okay.
So a lot of what made me successful at Apple and now in my adult life and my entrepreneurial life is because of the organization you mentioned, which was Skills USA.
Got it.
So they're a student-led organization. It's for, I'm gonna give you the pitch. It's students, teachers, and industry working together to ensure America has a skilled workforce. If you're a bit older and watching this used to be called VICA. It is up there with DECA, FFA, FBLA, if any of those ring a bell for anyone listening right now. Skills USA is the vocational organization. So the mission is simple: ensure America has a skilled workforce. They've been on that mission since like the 50s when they were called VICA, Vocational Industrial Clubs of America. Turned into Skills USA, but I say that because look at where America's at right now. Where the trending conversation on Twitter this last week was HB1 visas, because the tech world is arguing that we need to bring in people from the other countries to come and use tech and AI jobs. And it's like Elon's a part of it, but they're all like really cheering this narrative that they weren't cheering pre-election, like leading up to it.
Right.
And it's really all about immigration and getting them out versus like, oh, well, now we need these ones in. So that's like been trending the last week on Twitter. It's something I check every day, is at least what's trending, right? And so just see the conversation going out there in the world, see if I'm missing anything, and see what the world's talking about. And we lack skilled workers, not only for the tech stuff, but for plumbing, HVAC, for repair, for construction, for all of the hard labor skills, right? Every kid wants to be an influencer now. No one wants to be a carpenter.
Right.
But right now, those careers are surging because the price has gone up, because the value has gone up in the work for that. So if you're right now trying to figure out what to do and add value to life, like don't look beyond how you can use your skill sets if you have them, or developing those skill sets. Like starting a plumbing business right now, insanely lucrative. HVAC here in Arizona, never been more lucrative.
It's true.
Because we lack the skilled workers. So they saw this back in the 40s and 50s and started to do something about it. But even to today, like when I was in the organization as a student, the big conversation was like, what's going to happen because of our shortage of skilled workers? So Skills USA comes in, long story short, short story long. They come into the woodworking classrooms. They come into the culinary arts classrooms. Everything from cosmetology to TV productions to my trade, which was t-shirt design and print. And then I also did TV productions as well. And so essentially you learn your hard skill, automotive, cooking, the makeup for the girls, the nails, the hair, firefighting, welding. There's like 100+ different trades that you learn in your classroom. You're going to learn those skills if you apply yourself and have a decent teacher. Skills USA comes in with a leadership component. So their idea is learn your hard skill. Let's teach you the soft skills for how to become a really good employee and citizen, a really good person.
Interesting.
So now you learn how to be interviewed as like you're the interviewee, not the interviewer.
Right.
When you, every year they have competitions. You'll compete in your class. You'll compete in your region, a couple cities around you. You'll compete against your state, and then you'll compete at nationals if you place first all the way up. For state, you don't need to qualify, but to get to nationals, you got to place gold, and there has to be a national competition. So that happens all the way from the classroom all the way up to the national stage where you can compete in your given trade. When you compete, though, you got to get interviewed by industry panelists. You have to submit your resume. On certain days, you have to wear professional attire or our ceremonial attire. It's a red blazer, black slacks, white shirt, black tie. You have to groom yourself to look presentable. All these things that, like, there's kids doing it, so sometimes it's not the perfect 10 out of 10,
right,
but they're starting to see, okay, it's a little weird if my hair isn't kind of tidy or cut, or it's kind of weird if my shirt's untucked and I'm going to feel and look out of place.
Right.
If I don't have the right black dress shoes on, or if I have white socks. You start to go through all these scenarios as a student where it's like, okay, like, I don't know why this doesn't feel good, but I'm going to go ahead and do this thing because I'm liking this. I just competed and got on stage and won gold medal, had my hands raised in front of everybody, and now I get the chance to go to nationals if I can pull the funds together.
Right.
Or if my school would pay for it, or if someone would sponsor me from the industry. So hard skills, soft skills, that's where Skills USA comes in. And I say all that to say this. I competed in the class level, the region level, the state level. I got third at state. And I got second at state. And then it's a whole story of that. But at that same state competition where I competed in t-shirt design and print, we had to print it, make a screen, bring it there, and then print it there on site with people who were big in our industry that teach screen printing. They're to judge us as a panel. You got to get interviewed by them, do the whole thing. They're grading you on all of it. It's not just how your t-shirt came out. There's also a part of the score for your interview and for how you presented yourself and what you presented. I also ran for a state leadership position. It's called a state officer. I was a class officer in the club. I was a club officer and a class officer. I ran for region, and then at the end of that year, I competed in state, and then I ran for a state office. I won it by like 3 votes. I was the chubby version of the picture that you put up earlier, and I ran against the dude who was like 6'1", light skin, like kind of like debonair. Like he just had little milk cards. He put it all together, right? And I won by like 3 votes, thinking I was going to get crushed. But what worked for me is I worked the room beforehand.
Mhm.
I went and shook hands and made friends and said things, and a lot of these people come, hey, I voted for you. Hey, I voted for you. I won by 3 votes.
Little
Come to find
political.
out, if the region ran unopposed. So if you were running for one of the region, one of the 5 regions, you just won, except for my region, Region 3. And not only did I have competition, I had the dude who looks like he's like the all-star quarterback. So I'm getting to the point now. I ran for state, and then my teacher told me something our first day of school, which was second semester freshman year. He goes, Jeremy, you're going to be a national officer. And I go, sick. And then I go, what's a national officer? I had no idea. Fast forward to my senior year, not only did I run, summer of my junior year, going into my senior year, I run for a national office. I run for an at-large position. So it's basically a slate of 5 positions. So 5 people can win it. And then once you're elected, if you're elected, the whole team, it's about 5 college officers, 10 high school, they choose what your position is going to be: president, vice president, treasurer, parliamentarian, secretary. So I run for an at-large office. So I don't know what I'm going to be yet. I win in Kansas City, Missouri, Kemper Arena. That's where they give all the medals for everybody. And then midway through or at the end of the night, they announce the new national officers. The national officers on stage running the show, kind of hand it over to the next national officers. You go to training in Washington, D.C. So I missed my first week of senior year because in Arizona, we have less than a 2-month summer. And national officer training was July 22nd to the 27th. I think those are the exact dates. And I'm in Washington, D.C. So I missed my whole first week of senior year. I go to training. I was terrible at speaking still, even though I had done some training and been on stage and did some stuff. I would say 100 times. Like someone counted for me. It was embarrassing. I'm like, that's not me. And I went and fixed it the next day. At the end of our national officer training, which I'm now a national officer, 300,000 students. There's only 15 of us, right? So they choose me to be president.
Oh, wow.
So I got chosen to be president of high school, and then I also got chosen for a scholarship where you got a couple $1,000s for your trade, for tools of the trade, or to go towards college. And then with the scholarship came speaking at, or changing the wreath at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier,
Oh, wow.
and then speaking at John F. Kennedy's Eternal Flame in Arlington National Cemetery. So we do a conference in Washington, D.C. every year. We do our training there in the summer, and then come fall, it's this leadership training camp with 300 to 400 students from the whole U.S. Very concentrated group. Usually just the state officers or no one from your state goes. By the end of my reign there, we had like 15 kids from my own high school going to this thing, right? We raised the funds to make it happen. We had a lot of momentum. And I'm getting to the point, by the way.
You're good.
I'm getting to your initial question. I'm holding on to it in my head.
You're good.
But I get to take my dad out with me to DC, got to see me speak at John F. Kennedy's Eternal Flame, got to go to Arlington National. My grandfather served in the military, Purple Heart, all that sort of stuff. So that was big for both of us. Like, it was a very emotional moment. And then was president my senior year. And then at the end, here's where I tied together. I got to speak in front of 15,000 at Kemper Arena to open and close our ceremonies.
Wow.
So it's a big deal. We take over the town. We take over downtown Kansas City when it was there. Wherever town we're in Louisville. I think it might have changed this last couple of years. We take over the town. You see the red blazers everywhere, and we show up and we play full out. And it's like the best of the best that go to this national conference. That they're competitors. It's important. You're there working all summer with your advisor, not in school, trying to really master this thing you're going to go and compete in, whether it's like changing the tire or it's changing the engine or it's welding something or it's putting makeup on someone, like whatever your thing is. There's so many. And so that was not my first time speaking. That was probably my 80th time speaking in that photo.
What?
And in 2018, I was already after being a student. So whenever I'm asked, I'll go and speak at any states, competitions at any states, leadership camp at any states, thing they have going on. So Kansas State has had me out a couple times. I've done it all over Arizona. Anywhere they ask me to go, I'll totally go and show up. And I'll wear full attire if I need to, or
Yeah.
I'll just go and speak and present.
You were dressed on this one in
Yeah.
2018.
Yeah.
So.
And it's a great organization, and it time has only proven their mission valuable, which is ensuring America has a skilled workforce. All of my speaking stuff came because I didn't learn Spanish when I was 4.
Right.
and came because of Skills USA.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. And it's a highlight, it's another peak in the story of your life, right? So when I hear one, it's not that you knew of Skills USA. You know exactly what Skills USA is, and you know how to, after years not even being there, know how to regurgitate, put it back in there. It shows your passion, and that if you weren't passionate about it, you wouldn't even apply yourself, right? So now you get to Apple, you fast forward, you get to Apple, or you go to Apple, you have a peak there, right? You go to Skills USA, you have a peak, right? And you reach these peaks, okay? Now you get to Apple, you've reached this peak again, and there's like a glass ceiling, it feels like, from our conversation. Take me back there, because then it'll kind of catch us up to where we're at now. So that feeling that you started getting at Apple, what happened and how did it get there? And then how did you make that transition?
Yeah, so it went from part-time to full-time. A couple months later, they announced the expert role, become one of the first experts in the company. So it's a elevated sales position. It's not just everyone's in sales. Now we have this elevated position. You're going to make more, not commission, but you're going to make a decent amount more.
Right.
And you're going to be treated like the geniuses and the creatives, which is kind of like right under management, so to say. I make my way all the way to the business team at this point. And so now I'm facing with business customers and some regular customers when they need help, but I'm also calling businesses and like building relationships and trying to get them to install our tech in their spot and helping them when they do holiday buys, all this sort of stuff. Business was in its infancy at its time. And my manager got fired over something I thought was super trivial. And my manager was very like me in the way he applied himself and the way he saw his career. We also had the same birthday, so maybe I took it as a personal attack. But what I saw was that, okay, this dude's loved and revered by everyone here. He messed up, or you guys are just getting tripped up on something dumb. And it's one of the two, or somewhere in between. And you fire him like it's nothing. And that's fair in a corporate environment.
Right, yeah.
Apple, it's retail, but it's a corporate environment. It's a Fortune 3 company, Fortune 5 company, the biggest company in the world, first to 4 trillion.
Right.
So I had this realization that, wow, this company I want to retire from could retire from me at any moment they wanted to. So I'm over here being super loyal, but at the end of the day, it's going to come down to black and white into some decision maker that doesn't know me.
Yeah.
Okay. If they have to pass something up about me up to corporate and it ain't good, they're probably going to decide in the way of the company, which is fair.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. That's reality. And this like loving view I had of Apple came crashing down in a moment that like, dude, if I did something and wasn't even aware of it, they could just axe me. No ifs, ands, or buts. And I started to feel like I had an invisible target on my back. I wasn't doing anything that would create any attention or anything wrong, but I just felt like I could do something not meaning to do it because Apple's very strict.
Yeah, they are. They watch everything.
They watch everything. You can mess up in any small way, and that's your last day.
Yes.
Is the reality.
Yes.
Does it happen all the time? No, because people value their roles at Apple, largely speaking, even at a retail store. So at the time, I started a t-shirt business with one of my childhood friends, my roommate at the time as well. And it was good, but it wasn't crushing it. It wasn't enough to pay my bills, right?
So you were working and doing this.
Yeah, on the side. It was like moonlighting, doing graphic design from what I learned in t-shirt design,
Right.
print, putting all that to use. He was also in the class as well. So trying to put it to use, trying to start a business, trying to do what we thought was right. And then in my last 2 weeks, a gentleman walked in the store and he was looking for one of my coworkers because that's who ran his business account. It's like, well, he's not here, but I am. What's up? He was coming in to catch up, whatever. He finds out my mom has the same brain cancer that his partner at the time had, and she overcame it. So he was like, let me put her in touch with your mom. Maybe she can go down and visit her. Like he was so giving. And then I didn't know the guy at all, or what he did, or what he does, or anything like that. And then he mentioned he had a podcast. And it's one of the oldest podcasts, still running. And at the time, it was still one of the oldest podcasts still running. It's called I Love Marketing, and his name's Joe Polish. And Joe came in, and he's like, oh, you're like running a little business, cool. He's like, you're leaving Apple? It's like, bummer, like we just met. And he's like, what are your thoughts on this? He's like, what if I gave you tickets to come to my conference in 3 weeks for free? And you just exchange me some like time at the office for some Apple stuff, some questions, and some like help we need with some of our tech stuff. I was like, sounds fair to me. I'm out of here anyway. I can accept gifts. And so I leave Apple. I go to a startup. that was in a field I'd never been in before. And basically a customer walked in and like all of a sudden starts explaining that they're looking for someone who they're describing as me to a T. And I even told that person, hey, you're describing me to me right now, but I can't talk about that here. 2.5 weeks later, I'm leaving Apple.
Wow.
3 weeks later is this conference for I Love Marketing in Mesa, Arizona by Joe Polish and Dean Jackson. These two dudes have absolutely changed my life. And when I got there, I think this is a kind of a cool story. Very opening moments. He said they're already getting into the spiel and what they're going to talk about, the model they're going to break down and the speakers they're going to have and the magic of marketing and advertising. He's like, wait, he's like, who here in this room doesn't know the difference between marketing and advertising? There was probably 1,500 people in this grand ballroom. Room went silent. I'm looking around. I'm like, someone's got to not know. I definitely don't know. And I was like the entrepreneur in my circle. Okay. I was like the business person in my circle. And I was like, I actually don't know the difference. And so like, he's like right about to move on. And I yell from the back of the room, I don't. And he's like, who said that? Who said that? I'm like too far back for him to like, see. He's like, whoever did, thank you. Because hundreds of others in here don't know the answer to that. And because of you, they're going to find out. And he goes on, opens the conference. I realized in that they were talking about solving problems and niches. And they were talking about ebooks and lead magnets and giving value before someone. And I'm like, none of this applies to a t-shirt business.
Right.
Like what, I'm going to show you how to wash it?
Yeah.
How to take care of it?
Right.
Like none of it applies. And I went home with my brain scrambled because I realized I was in the wrong business.
Mm.
And if I wanted to solve problems, which really what makes a business successful at the end of the day, it's not going to be these commodities, these things
Right.
that everyone has that like go back to ancient days of putting on clothes, big tree leaves, right? To
Right.
cover yourself. Like it's a necessity, but it isn't something that's going to change the world or change my world at the very minimum.
Right.
And that started my detachment from the t-shirt business slowly but surely.
I see. So it was Apple t-shirt business coinciding together, working. You saw that glass ceiling. You wanted to get on your own. You get pulled by what kind of company was it? Startup?
Yep.
Some startup. Then so it happened fast, like
Very fast.
because I'm trying to put it all together.
Sure.
So it happened fast. Then how long before the t-shirt business into wholesale?
I mean, I got into wholesale. I dabbled in it January 2020 for a couple months. And then I didn't touch it until maybe a month before, 2 months before.
Yeah, I
we
remember.
Back up. Yeah,
I see.
I was kind of going through a phase of reinvention. I was like starting to not love what I was doing in business coaching,
Okay.
taking a little time off, seeing what's next. Like really, like I even still right now, I'm trying to figure out my identity.
Okay,
Right?
perfect. Let me stop you there because
Yeah.
I have that here
Okay.
with me. Okay, so
Yeah, my new identity.
I have this synopsis of where you are in what I can see on social media. That's all I can see, right? And I share in how you feel. And this is why I'm bringing it up. If I didn't think I shared in it, I wouldn't bring it up. But I'll speak on my side so you know where I'm coming from. It's like I've done this. I end up wanting to do that. I like it and then I don't. And then I'm starting another thing. Like here's this podcast, just thought about it 2 weeks ago and now I'm doing it.
Here we are.
Okay. There's an entrepreneurial spirit in everything that I do, but not all the time does it always work out. Right. And I hear a lot of people talk about how, if you just were to just apply yourself and just stay to it and don't give up and then find success in it, that's the reason why a lot of people don't find success. Right. But I have this counter belief to it that what if I'm doing what I don't like to do and then get success through that? Right. And I'm in roofing, I'm in solar, I've been doing call centers for a while, this and that. And I feel that wall and I end up doing something else. And I'm looking at your life and the things that you've done entrepreneurially. And it's like, okay, I'm doing this, but you're from what I can see, you're following where your heart's desire is. So tell us kind of wholesale to now and where you're trying to go.
Yeah, so a couple interesting things have happened is I started getting back into wholesale about January last year. Done a couple deals over the last 12 months. One was a land deal. We've had a couple ones that were almost deals,
Yes.
right? Like a couple almost deals. But that's the reality of wholesale. That's the reality of anything in life. You're gonna have a couple successes and probably more could have been,
Right.
didn't for whatever reason. I do have an inclination for following my heart. I want to kind of thinking out loud. I want to have a cross of doing something I love and also doing something I'm really good at. Sometimes those things aren't the two same fucking things.
Right.
I don't know if we can cuss on this.
Of course.
Sometimes they're not the same things,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Sometimes they can coincide. It's finding that overlap and how to take advantage of it. I think it's the perfect scenario. One view in my life has changed is that I think God has a far better plan for me than I have for myself. And so I'm trusting in that. That my heart or things that happen to me are leading me to what God's will is. I don't think anything can outdo God's will at this point in my life. I think you can fight it and struggle it, but God's will always reign supreme.
Mm.
What was going to happen, what he already had planned, is going to end up happening regardless of your feelings.
Mm.
It's just how it is.
Right.
And when you're doing wrong, that's when things tend to go wrong.
Mm.
And there's signs in that. And when you're doing good, often things will go good, but then you could also be, attacked by the enemy who doesn't want you doing what God's will is when words have been spoken over your life. Right? Like wants to convince you of the opposite, scramble you up. So that's a couple of things that have changed in my life in this journey. So a lot of me is going with the flow right now. I did business coaching for the better part of the last 12 to 15 years, online marketing, how to get clients, and then really finding my niche with helping specifically in the coaching industry. Like I've really cut a lot of the fat off, and it's like coaches. Anyone else, go somewhere else.
Right.
You can plug in. If there's something here helpful for you, there's probably some things are, but like who I serve and who I help and who I charge, those are coaches. So I largely laid off of a lot of that besides a client here or there, helping out, a month or two in between, just focusing on wholesale, mostly focused on wholesale 2024. And then in October, a close friend of mine came to me and was relaunching a project. She already has an audience, has had a direction she was going to be going and relaunching. She would just call me because we were friends to talk and to catch up. I'd give her hey, do you want to hear my advice? Like, do you want to know what I would tell you? That's why I'm calling you. Okay, here's what I would tell you if you were paying me. Right? Like, not trying to protect your feelings. Here's what I would tell you if you were my client, because she was one of my clients before. I met her through a friend of mine, and he ended up passing in between me ever meeting her, but we become really close friends after, and we work together, help her coach her business. We've just stayed friends. So we talk from time to time, give her some advice, and then she'd call a little bit more frequently, asking yada yada, and I always kind of came back to where we're at now. So essentially, I've come on board to help her, and we're rebooting her business, and we're doing it in a big way. And her initial idea for how it was going to work, my advice was, I don't think that's the right first move. So let's get back to basics and make your coaching business absolutely crush it. And then let's hire a team and get you out to go and do this other thing, because that's just not going to be the thing that works, and we need money coming in. She's a super smart lady, absolutely crushes it. But like dealing with your own business is harder than looking outside of it and looking into someone else's. Right. And so over the last couple months, we've really taken a lot of what my vision has been for what I think would work, and we've really ran with it. And so I've come on board as a partner. And so what we're doing is we have an upcoming summit for entrepreneurs online. We talked about it a little bit. January 13th through the 17th. So we're going to have 80 speakers from the industry. A lot of them are super big. I call them juggernauts, like big names in the space, and to come and present to our audience. And off the back of that, we're going to relaunch a couple coaching services she's offered, and we're going to launch them in the way I know how to run them, is the idea.
Nice.
So that she and I both don't get stuck in the business delivering, and so that we can focus on what we're good at. There's going to be a lot of things outside of special projects like a podcast where it's like things that have to get done in the business. And there's going to be things that you're better at getting done than someone else's, or that you're better at than the other things that are in your life and your business. I'm sure you can relate with that in your own. And so we call it a zone of genius. Like, how do we get each other into our zone of genius and outsource everything else out? Automate it or delete it. We had a long conversation right before I got here that she's like, wants to get her Instagram or social media up and going. And we had this conversation where I led her to, how many sales come through? Is your business dependent on Instagram?
Right.
No.
Right.
Do you get any sales from Instagram? No. I lean over, I'm like, why the fuck we focusing on Instagram? We both had to talk through it to get there.
Yeah, of course.
Right? We both had to talk through it and to realize, like, okay, do you hire someone for $200 who can do it? Or if this is important, why don't you go hire someone for $5,000 a month who could do it at a level 10? Right? And like, that's not an option right now. That's going to be in a couple months. But in the couple months, I think we're going to have the same conversation that Instagram is not important to your business.
Right.
What is? Oh, you said you love to be on stages and that's your thing. Just go get you on more stages. Let's get someone to film it, have someone prop it up, and if you want to post it, paste it. Pay someone $200 a month to do the posting.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, how do things have to get done, but over time things can get outsourced as the business grows. I said in the beginning, because it's something I've been meditating on today. The rules change throughout time. Running a business right now, the rules have changed, but the fundamentals have stayed the same.
True.
It's about people skills. It's about selling at the end of the day. I don't care what it is. So how can we make that what we're best at, and then get each other into our actual zones of genius, automate, create systems and teams for the rest of it. So at this point in time, I'm still wholesaling and still out there to try to get deals. And part of my short-term picture is how do I take the cash injection from all the success we're going to have and also use that to propel me in wholesale or into deals myself, right? As an investor for the right ones.
Yeah.
So the way I look at wholesaling, you know this too. Like I'm looking for deals for myself and for my sister.
Right.
All the rest of them we end up pimping out. We haven't kept one yet.
Right.
But it's like I only imagine there's gonna be one out of every 100 deals I actually do that's gonna be the right one for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, you find the diamond,
Right.
right? That needs either a lot of work, but you're getting it for less, or needs only a little work, and the deal still makes the same sense. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. Focus on my health. Wholesaling has taken a little bit of a backseat because this business is very demanding at the stage that we're at. But I also see this stage as being temporary. And where we're growing and the opportunities I see for myself, for us as a team, there's 3 of us that are kind of in this together and a couple other small team members. But I think our reality is going to change come February or March with this summit, with these products we're going to run and how we're going to run them, and the lives that we stand to really change because of it. Like I really believe in what I teach, what I'm bringing to the table. And I really believe in what she has already, what she teaches and what she brings to the table, that we're going to be able to create this really cool thing. And off the back of it, be able to really help a lot of people and also able to make more than a decent living in the process of it. So I'm pretty pumped for it. And had been business coaching full time, about a year and a half, 2 years now. It's kind of nice to be back in that because I know it like the back of my hand.
Yeah, I watched your videos on Facebook. Yeah, you had it down to a T. You were giving the information, and anybody that was probably a client of yours felt that passion and that love for it. So bringing you up now, we're here now. You caught me up. Haven't got to hear this side
it's
of
been a
it,
little while.
which is great. 2 last kind of questions, then I have a rapid fire question list to end of the day.
Cool.
But one thing I would want to talk about is I've talked about the peaks. You've had multiple peaks in your life, and I want to talk a little bit about the valleys, right? The downs, because people listening right now, we all have our versions of our peaks, but I think we could all share in the versions of our lows, right? And there's something to take away from that. So talk to me about, if you're comfortable, about the lowest points or a point that was low for you, how you went through that, the real struggle within it, and how you came out.
Yeah, 2 come to mind off the top. And like it's way easier to remember the valleys than it is the peaks. So I think it's a muscle to take it back to the beginning to keep those things in mind, to like count your blessings. Like that's a skill. When you count your blessings, I think that puts you in gratitude and you stay there.
Great.
Because bad shit's gonna happen. It happens every day to everyone. It's just a matter of how you pick yourself up or how little or long it takes you to get back into gratitude and to get back into motion, right?
Mm-hmm.
First one that comes to mind is losing my mom. Lost my mom to brain cancer shortly after that conversation with Joe. She was like already in long-term care or short-term care and then hospice right afterwards. So I lost her in my last couple weeks at Apple, and I'm very grateful for them. They're very understanding. They like sent a big wreath to her funeral, which I thought was very thoughtful. Like I hardly communicated at all. They were just like, go. Like just literally, they're just like, they knew at any moment in time things had happened. So kind of communicated that. So losing my mom was hard, but that brought my sister and I very close together. Right now I'm staying with her. So that's also kind of nice. Like we get along now. We didn't really much growing up. We didn't have a lot in common growing up, the 4-year age span. So, she's getting into high school. I'm in elementary school still.
Yeah.
I'm getting into high school. She's just leaving high school, full-time job in life. And I'm like focused on school or Skills USA. Right. So we just never really saw eye to eye for one reason or another. Always loved each other, but never saw eye to eye. And now we have that now, which is cool. And we still can go, we're siblings still. Right.
Right.
But I'm very thankful for that because I know that's what my mom would have wanted. Right. And she never got to see that with us growing up at all because we weren't ever really close, very distant, but now we're super close. Right. And so I'm very thankful in that. And like losing my mom was hard, but like having good parents, still having my dad around, like that's been good. And my dad has, has a whole new life now, took some time, but got remarried back in August. Right. We took him on a cruise.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yep. And I closed a wholesale deal while I was on the
Oh, you're on that
cruise.
cruise, I remember.
Yeah. So that was kind of cool for him to see, like have them all there. So that was definitely a low. Like that was hard. Losing my mom, losing the way. Cancer had her for about a year and a half, and then it was done. We found it at stage 4. The losing her was not nearly as hard as finding she had it. That was hard, and then seeing someone decay, slowly in front of you, that wasn't easy. So I think that one, and anyone who's lost a parent could probably relate with that to some degree. My mom was like the glue of like not only our family, but like the family.
Right.
Like with her gone now, we feel the difference in like no one keeps in touch. She was that person.
I see.
That was our natural thing to keep in touch, to check in, to say hi. Never missed a happy birthday, never missed a card for Christmas. Like that was her.
Right.
Now I don't have that skill set. I have the desire for it, but that's not a natural thing for me.
Of course,
right?
yeah.
And then second one is I had some time in between. I had an apartment in Scottsdale, and then I had some time between like figuring out what I was going to do next. And so I called my dad and said, "Can I come stay with you?" So I went to Las Cruces for 6 months. Like that was hard mentally for me because no one out there is ambitious.
Mm.
No one up there is up to anything good. If you're not retiring and moving there or retired and live there, there ain't nothing good for you there. Like it's a miracle that I have some cousins that aren't into something terrible.
Right.
Or or something terrible hasn't happened to them, like living there.
Right.
But I wanted to go there because that's where my ancestors are from, like literally. And then so I went there and I stayed on a couch at my dad's for 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah, and like that was I had my health, had things to be thankful for, right? Had my business, things to be thankful for. I didn't have a lot of momentum in my business like I had previously, so that was a little bearing on me. But like I also didn't need a whole bunch of cash to make things going, but that also took my foot off the pedal a little bit.
Right.
And how hard to go. My dad's house was my grandmother's house, and that house has been like a get back on your feet house for just about every person in my family.
Yeah.
And like
cool.
I was having my moment of like I didn't know what I wanted to do. I know that I didn't want to have the same living arrangement that I had when I was here in Scottsdale. I knew that I couldn't afford that Scottsdale rent on my own, right? So it's like I could go stay with my dad, stack some cash, make it easier on me monetarily. Go stay with my dad because I don't know if I'll ever have this chance again.
Right.
Right? Like he and his current wife weren't even dating when I first moved out there.
Oh wow.
Right? So like whole different scenario. My aunt was also sick at the time. I wanted to spend some time with her, maybe help my dad out. My dad's been taking care of someone since before my mom passed.
Wow.
Right? Like never a break. So a little part of me wanted to go out and like just to be there with her too because she was sick. She's since passed. She passed a couple months after I had left, but wanted to be there to help and I could. So like I would take her dialysis appointments. I'd go hit the gym at 5:30 in the morning and pick her up afterwards. And like now my dad didn't have to wake up at 4 and do the whole thing by himself. And he started getting back to work and his business started taking off again. So that was cool. So I think it was meant to be, but like being there in the moment, like depressing is the closest word I could get to.
Right.
But at the same time, I had everything I needed. I had food in the fridge. I had a place to stay. Yeah, I was on a couch, but it's like that's a lot better than some.
Yeah.
You could argue better than most, right? Like I had so much that I could worry about that I had to work really hard to not let get to me. But I also had a lot to be thankful for, like a dad that I could go and stay with. And was not only like, yeah, you can come, was like, no, come.
Mm.
Like, how can I help?
Right. That's awesome.
Right?
I like the one thing that stands out when you talk about the lows or the valleys is that you keep extending it beyond yourself. Like it never is about you, even though you are going through the problem. Oh, I want to be there to help my dad. I was going through some things, but you know what? I want to help my aunt, and he's been going through a lot. So I want to make sure that I'm there for him, and the same with your mom. You're going through it, but you never really brought it around to you. Right. And I feel like, I'm, sometimes this happens with me. Like when things start happening in life, I start closing in and then things start looking like it's all about me. Right. And what I take away from, your valleys is that, yeah, you are going through something, but you always extend your arm out to like help somebody else, even while you're going through it. And that's a decision to make. And that's the core of who you are as a person. And I genuinely believe like you had nothing left, you give the shirt off your back. That was the last thing you could do. Right. And much respect to you through that.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I've never had someone point that out to me, and I've never thought about it in that way. So I appreciate that. Because if you look at my life from the outside, I look very selfish.
I don't know about that.
And sometimes I feel that way, that like, it's me and my dog. Like I pray to God for kids one day that I should be blessed with them, but like I don't have kids to worry about.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I got no one counting on me. Right, that whole year and a half that I was doing business coaching, no one reached out and was like, "You still business coaching?"
Right.
Or like checked in. You know what I mean? I just kind of let social media, fewer and further posts, that sort of thing. But I appreciate you sharing that and reflecting that back to me because I look at myself and I'm like super selfish. Like even in small ways, even in big ways, like I take care of myself.
No, not at all. You're always saying to me like, however I can help, Shaq, let me know.
I appreciate that, and I think a lot of that is like a tool because that feels good.
Right.
I like thinking out loud in this moment. It's like I always feel better when I'm in service to someone else,
Yeah.
right?
It's a little selfish, but in a good way.
And I think when we take it back to the New Age versus Christianity and where I'm at now, some of the details I've shared here on this show, I think that all of that led me to be super selfish or okay with being super selfish. And now I know on the other side of that, getting back to Christ, right? Christ never left me, even though I had turned my back, that I now serve something far bigger than me. And I'm not out here at every gas station saying, has anyone ever loved you enough to share the gospels with you? Right. I'm not out here preaching at a church or anything like that. I'm in the infancy of my journey.
Right.
But now I see that I am a part of something so much bigger because of that.
Right.
And I serve a higher authority. And for a while, I was my authority.
Mm.
And that's a dangerous, slippery slope that you can only find out through going through that on your own. I don't pray that on anyone, but if that's how you have to get to your answers, or to, in my humble opinion, the answer,
Right.
the way, then it leads you to being super selfish, which is exactly what Satan wants. When you look at the Bible, it's exactly what they want, is for you to think you're responsible for everything good and bad,
Right.
and for it to all be about you. And it's very easy in this Western American society for that to be how normal everybody works. No one cares about each other out here on these roads.
Right.
You're lucky if someone holds a door open for you. In New York, ain't no one holding a door open for you when I was there in October, right? And there's so many. I told my buddy right when I got there, I'm pulling my luggage to the subway, and I could feel that there's so many people there that you feel insignificant, and like you can do anything, and you'll not pass that same person again ever
Right.
in any given neighborhood.
That's crazy.
And I was in Brooklyn, not even in Manhattan or anything, right? And in Manhattan, that's amplified times 10. I was telling my dude, I feel insignificant. I told him I can see how someone could live out here and be lonely.
Jeez.
Because you feel insignificant. You walk too slow, people are cursing at you on the sidewalk.
Wow.
And the way you use the sidewalk in New York is the way we use cars here in Arizona.
Yeah.
It's not the same.
That's crazy.
Okay? Like most people don't have the car out there, right? They have good shoes. They have
Right.
good walking shoes
Right.
is what they have, and a couple pairs every year. And I say that because you look at San Francisco or New York, and you see a lot of people who, from one perspective, are doing some weird stuff, right? Into the acronyms and into all of that, whether you think that's good or bad, all of those things are what are warned against us in the Bible. All right, they're there for us to see as the sins and those things. And in those cities, more sin is happening than anywhere else because there's so many people that you're never going to see any given person again. And I could feel that when I was out there. And it's like that made me more want to look people in the eye and even nod when I make eye contact or say, "How are you?"
Right.
And like I could tell that was weird, but everyone responded positively to it.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like when I was in New York, I felt a service to New York in a way. Weird thing to say out loud.
No, it makes sense because people don't know that they want to feel love until they get it, right? Sometimes they're just living life so much that when someone does shake their hand or open the door for them, that it brings this feeling inside. They're like, oh wow, like someone's acknowledging me. I'm seen.
I'm seen.
Yeah, and that means the world to a lot of people, right? And I definitely get that from you. Like one thing for me is like whenever I apologize, like all this stuff's going on, I hate whenever
You're good.
like I can't, like unfortunately my business revolves around me making sure it's going. I'm gonna follow your rules and how to automate all this, but
All in time.
yeah, all the time, yes. But the one thing that I get from depending who I'm with is like if I'm on the phone or if I'm talking with someone directly, if they're on their phone or like busy, like doing all this stuff, right? I get every night you have to check your phone. But you can tell if someone's there. You can tell when someone's paying attention to your words, if they're present with you. And you 100% carry that presence of being present. And that is a gift to have, and then also a gift that you can give. And you definitely give that. And I think out of the business, consultations and the speaking that you're going to do in the future and that you've done in the past, I think what most people can take away is that you're present in that moment. When I watched that keynote of you talking in front of everybody, you were present, right? You weren't trying to think too much of the future. You weren't trying to talk too much of the past. You were right then there with all the students that were there, right? And that is something that I still fight to have, is be present and not too worry much about the future and the past and dwell too much in the past. So I just get that takeaway from me, right? But to respect your time, I want to kind of bring us and start landing us down. I have some rapid questions. Well, actually, I have 2 Easter eggs for you.
Okay.
I've learned that you have always been in the entrepreneurial mindset, and this was even in your high school days, apparently. So what I was told is you in junior high were suspended for selling fireworks.
Yep.
You got suspended for selling fireworks. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So at the time, unlike now, fireworks were extremely illegal in Arizona,
Okay.
dry state.
I'm so used to seeing it.
Exactly. Every tent, every grocery store parking lot.
Yeah.
For the holidays minimum, but there's like physical stores you can go and buy fireworks from in most places.
Yeah.
Arizona, it was like banned. Okay, these were not fireworks; these were explosives, and you're gonna start a forest fire. You're gonna start a wildfire. You're gonna start a dry fire. Like
Right.
it was big. Like to even have fireworks was almost like having a gun in a state where like guns are illegal,
That's crazy.
or a country, right? Like that's how it felt in Arizona. So one Christmas we go to New Mexico, which they're super legal. Like once you cross the border, there's like an infinite amount of places to stop and get like not only cream of the crop fireworks, but they're buy one get one free whatever you buy. If you buy the finale,
Yeah.
right, however many hundreds of dollars or thousands it costs, you're getting one free. That's how it works in New Mexico. So we get some like black hats and some other type stuff. While I was there, some M80s, right?
I'm laughing because I just picture you like stocking this all up.
Bro, I've been selling something since second grade. I would trade and then trade up action
Nice,
figures,
nice.
yo-yos, Pokemon cards, Yu-Gi-Oh,
I like
whatever
that.
was skateboards, whatever was in, I would find a way to trade service or to trade an item for an item or a way to sell the stuff I had to someone else to get the thing I actually was now wanting.
That's a skill.
Since second grade, bro.
I love that.
Okay, like you talk about natural things.
Yeah.
I've been selling some in second grade. Seventh grade, it was fireworks. It had progressed to fireworks by that time. Everything worked well for about 3 weeks. I probably made close to $500 or $600 off of the $40 that we paid for fireworks for.
That's a return.
I was selling, so black hats come in strips of, I think it's like 200 or 300, double on both sides, and you can light the end and all of them go up,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Or you can just cut the width of it and now you have an individual black hat.
Yes.
So I was selling them 10 for 10
Stop.
to my close friends, like my group. And they were buying them every single day. And then a couple other kids would want them, or they would like, what ended up happening
Was it like this in the jacket?
might as well, bro. Arizona, so no jacket, but like might as well have been. Ziploc baggies. Friends are coming to school with quarters,
That's awesome.
right? With like change, like what you got,
Yeah.
itching. And then firework got into the hand of the wrong kid. And he at
Snitched?
school lit it in the locker room
Oh my god.
and shut the locker, and the whole operation came down. So I get kind of word of it. I'm in like lunch after class. I hear the phone ring. I hear some like conversation with the teacher or whatever, and then like I just know it's coming. The police officer comes and gets me from the class. I get there and they pull me, the kingpin of it all. They pull me in last. Okay. They pull it, all the kids one by one. There's probably 10 of us now, including the troublemaking kids. And all of them lied and told different stories.
Oh my gosh. Just made it worse.
Yes. And I get called in last, right? And I got a couple different questions than I guess that they got. And it was more of like, did you sell these guys fireworks? And I was like, him, not him. And he was the one who set the one off. And I didn't. I don't know how it got to him. I was trying to find that out come afterwards. And I'm like, yes. And then like one of the kids was like, oh, there they are. And he takes his shoe off and there's like 5 black cats in his shoes. Like, oh, I was looking for him. Like, dude, you should just kept him in there, you freaking idiot. You wouldn't have gotten in trouble. Everyone got 3 to 5 day out of school suspensions plus a couple of days in school. I got called in last, and he also held me last after letting everyone go. Everyone told different stories like an idiot, right? Just not the truth, which the truth would have been just fine.
Right.
The truth was fine. Did he sell you them and did you buy them? Everyone's lying, and everyone just rats each other out before I get there.
Oh my gosh.
So everyone leaves, and they're like, I gave them all 5-day suspensions. I'm only going to give you 2. And I'm going to give you 2 because you told the truth. They don't know. Everyone here just told different stories, and you came in and just set it straight.
That's awesome.
I think I appreciate that. And then my response to my time was, am I going to have to give the money back? Like to you, like, do I need to give you the money? All right, to our assistant principal. And he goes, no, like he responded like I asked the most ridiculous question ever. He's like, no, young man, you earned that. You keep that. And that's Chief Hill for anyone who knows that name at all from Anderson. He has a school named after him now here in the valley.
Awesome.
He was like, no.
He said you earned that?
You earned that,
That's
my man.
awesome.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, $700, $800, whatever it was. Like,
Right.
thanks. I was
In
buying
school?
skateboards. I was
Yeah.
buying everything I wanted, right?
Yeah.
The hard part about that was going home and telling my dad.
Oh yeah.
That was the hard
100%.
part.
Yeah, I'm
I
sure.
held it all together, and then I walked in. My dad turns the corner, and I just like started crying. Like I, got caught for fireworks. Like I had kept it all together. All of the punishment, I kept it together, and like telling him that was the hard part. And
Yeah.
his only response was, "Go get the fireworks,"
Oh
and
my
like go and get
gosh.
them. He like put him in a place where like couldn't
Couldn't get
hypothetically
it.
grab them.
Yeah, yeah,
And then
yeah.
he had to have the conversation with mom.
Oh,
But it all worked out. I learned to tell the truth.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I got a lesser punishment because I did.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Entrepreneurial. I mean, you said you made some money, you bought some skateboards, and apparently you opened up another business, grip taping skateboards
Literally.
out of that business. Is that right?
Basically.
Okay.
Yeah, I was never good at skateboarding, for the record. Like I was terrible. The overweight, chubby kid. Like
Right.
I had hand-eye coordination, but I wasn't fast,
Okay.
and I wasn't jumping anywhere high.
Yeah.
Right. So I loved skateboarding though. Loved it. It was one of those phases that I had in my young age. And I started doing the grip tape, which is like the top part of the board. It's like sandpaper.
Yeah,
Keeps
yeah.
your shoes on there so you could do tricks and whatnot. Not that I was doing any.
Right.
I could ollie.
You were just
jump.
selling it.
Yeah, I could ollie. I could jump. But I started doing grip tape on my own board, like the pro skaters that I would watch. It was like a line at the bottom, so the back part of the board.
Yeah.
I'd do a little design here or there, make it kind of cooler. And then one day I did like a glass shattering. It took me all day long. Basically, I cut the piece of grip tape into like 100 different pieces, and I spaced them out so it looked like glass shattered.
Ooh, yeah, that's
right?
cool.
It wasn't practical because the second you start doing tricks, it starts to like rip up and tear up and that sort of stuff. But all my friends wanted it.
Wow.
So I started doing grip tape for all my friends, and I would make enough money off of it to pay for like another like bundle of grip tape for me, and like a couple extra dollars,
That's
right?
cool.
So like I would make money, but I did it because I liked it, and my friends were all interested, and they were all pumped about it.
Right.
And then so soon enough, my whole crew has boards gripped by me, and then like I would get like grip tape and the tools to do it basically paid for through that. So it was like funding my hobby. Like,
Yeah.
Of course, I probably went towards buying skateboard equipment and things I was into at the time, clothing
Right.
and whatnot. But yeah, that was 8th grade.
That's 8th grade.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then that kind of ties in the entrepreneurial in you, like continually all through life. And, you're, as the point of this whole podcast is you're in progress, right? You still haven't reached the destination. And maybe you're the type of guy that really never will feel or want to reach the destination. I feel like you do enjoy your journey that you're on. But what's we'll do this last question and I'll do the rapid. What is your last say to people who are on the come up or just getting into business or in content creation? What's your advice to them?
Yeah, I think people don't hear this enough. As ambitious people, it's never enough. And I think that even can go for like the everyday person when you think about like cell phones, the dopamine from them,
Mhm.
the notifications and the TV and the screens and like the instant gratification we're now in where you need an answer, you just search for it. Back in the day, you had to get an encyclopedia, find an encyclopedia. Like there was so much more in the journey to get that info. It was way more rewarding when you got it. Now we have it reward 10 times before we're out of bed, right?
True.
So I think this can also apply to some people, but for the entrepreneurs, there's never enough. So I think one of two things, either find a way to make enough, or you do what I do, which is like, I'm not where I want to be yet. I don't feel like I've reached my final form. And if I have, that's depressing. Okay. I'm not where I want to be. Not in many places. I'm on my way. So you got to be happy with the journey. And you also got to be happy without the journey. It's a luxury that I get to work at a couple times a week. It's a luxury that I'm at home with my dog and my dog's mother the majority of my time. And that I don't have any sicknesses that I know of, and no one in my family's on their deathbed or anything like that I know of, right? Like gratitude. We talked a lot, the big theme that has emerged here today, and I'm grateful for that. I have gratitude for that because it's a big thing in my life, and I forget about that sometimes and the importance of it. That's
Right.
led me through so much and led me to so much that you have to find gratitude in having absolutely nothing if you're going to be able to get happy enough to back to the conversation of enough, like when is enough? It's like, it's never going to be enough. So how do you accept that right now and get happy with where you're at? You talked about presence. I take that as a compliment to be present because someone's time to me is the most precious thing because my time is precious to me, right? I'm never going to get time back. Right. So I waste enough of my own time. Right. So it's like, you have to find a way. If you can find a way to be happy with nothing and where you're at right now, and you hold that with you, you can totally find a way to be happy at any up or down that you're having in your life. And so there's never enough money in the world. There's never enough women in the world. There's never enough love in the world. There's never enough whatever you're after or needing or wanting, consciously or unconsciously. There's never enough to the human body. When we put food in our mouth, our body wants more food. If I hike my calories up, I'm hungrier the next day.
Right.
If I stay consistent, I don't ever have to fall off of it. And I can relate that to so many different areas. So if we know that enough is never going to be enough, how can you still find a way to be super happy with where you're at today, and still drive yourself forward for whatever is next? But you can get hit by a bus on your next walk across the street.
Never know. Yeah.
And but you were super unhappy with where you're at, but where you're at was a blessing. You just weren't looking for it. Right? You weren't holding it close to you. You weren't being that blessing for other people by noticing your own blessings. I think that's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like
Agreed.
Gratitude's contagious.
It is.
It's contagious. Or you feel it and you know there's something there.
Yeah.
And if enough is never going to be enough, find a way to be happy right now and accept. That's gratitude's part of acceptance, right? Accepting where you're at, being thankful for it, and then wake up every new day, and every moment's a new moment to be able to make it better or different, at least.
Right. The secret to contentment.
Yeah, kind of.
How do you be content while wanting to pursue something?
Yeah, and I think it comes down to gratitude.
Agreed. Definitely agree. All right, rapid fire questions
All
here,
right.
just a few, and I don't want you to think too much.
All right.
Just want you to answer.
I will try.
Okay, awesome. Pizza or spaghetti?
Pizza.
Awesome. Coke or Pepsi?
Coke by my actions, Pepsi by choice.
Okay.
Like I have more Coke products around me in my life
Right.
than not. But if there's Diet Pepsi when I go somewhere,
I remember that. Yeah.
I'm going Diet Pepsi. We had that in common. When we
Yes.
went, like, dude, you grab Diet Pepsi. Hell
Yes.
yeah. But I'm okay with a Diet Coke or Dr. Pepper. You know, I don't do the sugary ones. But if I have my choice, it'll be Pepsi.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. Are you a walk on the beach or an early morning hike type of person?
Walk on the beach by choice, but if you look at my actions, I don't live by a beach and I don't hike all the time. But
Right.
like it's bound to be an early morning type hike.
Yeah.
But I totally, if there was mountains and beach and I have the choice, I'm gonna go down to the beach.
Interesting. Okay. I didn't think that.
Yeah.
Okay. If you could make $1 million once, or would you take $15,000 a month for the rest of your life? If you can get all the $1 million given to you right now, or would you take $15,000 a month for the rest of your life?
You don't want me to think.
Yeah. Just off the gut, what would you do?
I'd take $1 million.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'd take $1 million.
I would too.
Yeah.
And now why? Now why?
The 15K sounds good, but it sounds like a slow drip.
Right.
Okay. 15K is not going to move the needle in my life. Maybe like after a couple years,
Right.
it moves the needle, but it's really not going to solve any problems for me. Whereas $1 million could solve some problems.
Right.
That
right.
immediate cash injection could solve some problems, and I could invest the overwhelming majority of it to
Exactly.
make way more than 15K a month off of.
Cool. That's the entrepreneurial side.
Yeah, and you could call it that, but I'm adverse to risk. Like I'm okay with risk. If I'm saying that wrong at all, like I'm a risk taker.
Yes.
For better or for worse.
Right.
Sometimes for worse, sometimes for better.
It's
right?
part of it.
The
Yeah.
bets on myself have always worked out better than the bets on things I can't control.
Agreed.
But I'm a risk taker.
Yeah.
And so
You
call it
gotta be.
entrepreneurial, you could call it the
Yeah, risk taker, entrepreneurial. I don't like using entrepreneurial much. It's just thrown around so much, and it's like a tag that you wear on your shirt. I'm an entrepreneur. When really, I'm exactly what you're saying, a risk taker. I just take risks, and sometimes I over leverage and lose. But
Yeah,
it's part of it, you know.
That question could be worded in a different way as well, which is you hit the lottery, do you take the cash payout or do you take the payments over time and get
Over
the full
time.
amount?
Yeah.
In that amount, I might just take the monthly payments.
Mm.
But there's also the argument for you don't know if that company's going to be around and still paying out at that
So
time. A lot
true.
of shit changes. I'd probably I changed my answer. I'd
Yeah.
probably just
Yeah.
take
Just
the
take
big
the
amount
cash. Yeah. 100%.
or get a company to buy the payments from me and give me a larger amount of cash
Mm.
up front. You guys take
Yeah.
take the monthly money.
Interesting. That's why I had the question. So I want to hear. Perfect. Football or basketball?
Football.
Stocks or crypto?
Stocks.
And then Lamborghini or Ferrari?
Ferrari.
Interesting. Ferrari's like the old man cigar type, in my opinion.
I'm into classic things.
God.
I'm not big into trends. Like I got these Yeezys like 2 years into it and I'm still rocking them. Like no one's wearing Yeezys anymore.
Yeah.
Like
True.
like you know what I mean? Like I'm not big into trends and that sort of stuff. I like old money.
Okay.
I like the things that last through time.
Okay.
And like if I see Lamborghini, it's like you're probably a coach.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
hit it big in crypto
True.
recently or something. It's
Correct.
like no, but you see someone with a Ferrari,
Right.
that says something entirely different.
Very true.
And I'd rather have the Ferrari money than the Lamborghini money. Because any Jamoke around here in Scottsdale could have a Lamborghini and does.
Interesting.
Versus you see some Ferraris in here in Scottsdale.
Right.
Anywhere else in the world, if you're not in Miami or LA, Hollywood, you're not seeing the kind of Ferraris that we're seeing.
No.
But like, I'd much rather have a Ferrari. Yeah, I
Interesting.
like the old money stuff.
I like it. That's a great answer, Ferrari. I was expecting Lamborghini, but the way you say it and why you're explaining it, now it makes sense. Makes perfect sense. Well, great. Hopefully you enjoyed yourself. You didn't take a drink of your water. So you had some water, had some like flavor there for you if you want.
I thought this was just part of your routine there.
No.
With the B vitamins.
Yeah. So any final words you want to say? Leave with the people?
One, thank you for inviting me. Honored to be your first guest. Super stoked for what you have coming up, bro. So let me know how I can support in any way,
Yes.
and promoting it or helping tech stuff or whatever. For those of you listening, appreciate you for listening all the way through. I hope there was something of value for you in our introspection into my life. And I think the biggest thing from here is like just gratitude. Find a way to start your day with it. Find a way to find gratitude even in things that are going bad, because there's bad in the good and there's good in the bad. Sorting through that is really where the effort comes in. And the more you can get grounded in that gratitude and then start to live through it, I think that's when magic starts to happen. So appreciate you guys for listening. And I hope this served you in some way.
I'm sure people have taken some nuggets out of it. So thank you, man. I appreciate it. And to everyone listening, thank you. I'll look to see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Later.